The night I pretended I was broke, my family emptied my accounts, transferred my penthouse, sold the company shares I had placed in their names, and left me with one battered suitcase outside a cheap roadside motel. 3 months later, they stood beneath the iron gates of my private villa, soaked by cold rain, screaming that we were family and begging me to save them. My mother pounded the intercom until her palms bled. My father promised to return every dollar. My younger brother cried so hard he could barely speak. I watched them from the second-floor balcony, holding a cup of black coffee, and remembered the exact words they had used when they thought I had nothing left. You were only useful when you had money. My mother, Evelyn Carter, had said it without hesitation. She had been sitting at the head of the dining table in the house I bought for her, wearing the pearl necklace I gave her on her 50th birthday. My father, Richard, stood beside her with a glass of 12-year bourbon in his hand. My brother, Nathan, leaned back in his chair and smiled as if he had been waiting his entire life to see me fall. None of them knew the bankruptcy was fake. None of them knew the accounts they had stolen were bait. And none of them knew the villa behind me was only one of 13 properties I owned through companies they had never heard of. The test had started with a phone call from my chief financial officer, Clara Bennett, 2 weeks earlier. I had been sitting in my office on the 82nd floor of Vale Crown Holdings, staring through a wall of glass at Manhattan, shining beneath a winter sunset. Clara placed a thin black folder on my desk and remained standing. "There is a leak inside the family office," she said. Clara never wasted words. She was 34, sharp-eyed, disciplined, and more loyal than every blood relative I had combined. She had joined me when Vale Crown was still 3 borrowed rooms above a failing pharmacy. She had watched me sleep under my desk, live on cold noodles, and risk everything on acquisitions everyone else called impossible. I opened the folder. Inside were copies of wire instructions, property searches, private emails, and draft contracts. My father had contacted a lawyer about taking control of the family trust. My mother had asked how quickly my assets could be liquidated if I became mentally unfit. Nathan had been speaking to Victor Hale, the owner of Hale Meridian Capital, about selling him confidential information from my company. There was also a recording. Clara pressed a button on her phone. Nathan's voice filled the office. "Adrian thinks he is some kind of king because he made a few $1 billion. He forgets who raised him. If the market turns and he loses control, we take what is left before the creditors do." Then my mother laughed. It was a soft laugh. That made it worse. "He will forgive us," she said. "Adrian always forgives us." My hand remained still on the folder, but something inside me went silent. I had spent 15 years making sure they never felt poor again. When my father's construction company collapsed, I paid every debt. When my mother wanted a charity foundation, I gave her an office, a staff, and an annual budget of $20 million. When Nathan failed out of college, crashed 2 sports cars, and lost $6 million on a nightclub, I cleaned up every disaster. They called me controlling when I asked questions. They called me selfish when I set limits. Then they smiled for photographs and told reporters we were a close family. Clara watched my face. "What do you want me to do?" I closed the folder. "Nothing." Her eyebrows moved slightly. "Nothing. Give them what they want. That would expose nearly $40 million in accessible assets. Make it 60. Clara understood before I finished. "You want to test them?" "No," I said. "I want to stop lying to myself." 3 days later, financial news sites reported that Vale Crown Holdings had suffered catastrophic losses from a failed foreign acquisition. Anonymous sources claimed lenders were demanding immediate repayment. A photograph of me leaving headquarters in an old gray coat appeared beside the headline. The story was false, but it looked perfect. I stopped using the armored Maybach. I closed my public credit cards. I moved out of the penthouse for appearance's sake. I let calls go unanswered. Then I went home. My parents lived in a limestone mansion in Westchester that I had purchased for $11 million. The deed was held by a family trust. They thought that meant it belonged to them. When I arrived, Nathan's red Ferrari was parked across 2 spaces near the front entrance. I had paid for that too. My mother opened the door and looked past me. "Where is your driver?" I let him go. Her face tightened. "You came in a taxi?" "I sold the car." She stared at my coat. It was an old wool coat I had worn during my first winter in New York when I had less than $600 to my name. The left cuff was frayed. One button had been replaced with a darker one. My mother stepped aside, but she did not hug me. The house smelled like cedar, roasted lamb, and the expensive candles she ordered from Paris. Music played softly in the dining room. My father and Nathan were already eating. Nathan glanced at me and smirked. "You look terrible." "I have had a difficult week. That is what happens when you pretend you are smarter than the market." My father cut a piece of lamb and chewed slowly. "How bad is it?" I sat across from them. "Bad." My mother remained standing. How bad? I may lose control of the company. The room became very quiet. My father set down his knife. What about the family trust? It may be affected. My mother's hand tightened around the back of her chair. What about this house? I do not know. Nathan laughed once, but there was no humor in it. You do not know. I am still reviewing everything. You told us the trust was protected. I said it was structured carefully. You said we would never have to worry again. My mother finally sat down. What about my foundation? I may need to suspend the budget. Her face changed, not sadness, not concern. Fear sharpened into anger. You cannot do that. I may not have a choice. You gave your word. I am trying to preserve the core business. Nathan leaned forward. What about my investment account? I froze new transfers this morning. He shoved his chair back so hard it struck the wall. That is my money. It came from Vale Crown. You gave it to me. I funded the account. I did not give you permission to burn through it without limits. His mouth opened. My father raised one hand. Enough. He looked at me with the expression he used when I was a teenager and had disappointed him. You built too fast. I said nothing. You never listened, he continued. You thought money made you untouchable. I built everything we have. That attitude is exactly your problem. The cruelest betrayals did not arrive with shouting. They arrived dressed as judgment. My father had not asked whether I was sleeping. My mother had not asked whether I was in danger. Nathan had not asked whether the company's employees would lose their jobs. They only wanted to know which luxuries might disappear. I lowered my eyes and let my shoulders sag. I need your help. My mother looked at my father. What kind of help? I need temporary access to the liquid assets in the family trust. Nathan barked a laugh. You came here to take our money. It is not your money. The room froze. I let the sentence hang there. My father's face hardened. What did you say? I lifted my head. The trust was created with my earnings. The assets came from my companies. My mother stared at me as if I had slapped her. So everything you ever gave us was never really ours? That is not what I said. It is exactly what you said. Nathan pointed at me across the table. You think we owe you because you got lucky. Lucky. That word almost made me smile. He had never seen the storage room where I slept during my first year. He had never watched a bank reject me. He had never gone 70 hours without rest to save a failing deal. He had never sat alone in an emergency room after collapsing from exhaustion because everyone was too busy spending the money I made. I looked at him. I need $3 million to cover a lender call by morning. Nathan shook his head. No chance. You have more than that in the account I funded. I had more than that. My eyes narrowed. What does that mean? He leaned back. It means I moved it. Where? Somewhere safe. My mother spoke quickly. We had to protect ourselves. The trap had closed faster than I expected. I turned to her. What did you do? She looked toward my father. He finished his drink before answering. We consulted an attorney. About what? About separating the family assets from your business liabilities. Which assets? The house, the accounts, the vacation properties, the trust holdings. My voice stayed calm. You transferred them? We preserved them, my father said. Nathan smiled again. To a new company. What company? Carter Legacy Partners. The name was almost funny. My family had stolen everything they thought I owned and named the theft after themselves. I looked from one face to another. When did you do this? This afternoon, my mother said. You moved the trust assets while I was asking for help. We did what was necessary. The documents required my authorization. My father's eyes shifted. Only for a second. That was enough. You forged it, I said. My mother stood abruptly. Do not use that word. What word would you prefer? We protected this family? From me? From your failure. There it was. The truth. Not hidden behind concern. Not softened by love. My failure had given them permission to rob me. I leaned back in my chair. What else did you take? Nathan's confidence returned. The penthouse is under contract. My gaze moved to him. You sold it? Victor made a strong offer. Victor Hale? His smile widened. You know him. I knew Victor very well. He had spent years trying to break into industries I controlled. He wore navy suits, gold cufflinks, and the permanent expression of a man who believed every person had a price. Victor had approached Nathan because Nathan was weak, vain, and desperate to be treated as important. How much? I asked. $28 million. The penthouse is worth more than 40. Nathan shrugged. Then you should have managed your company better. My mother walked around the table and stopped beside me. Adrian, listen to me. This is painful for all of us, but we cannot drown because you made reckless decisions. I looked up at her. Where am I supposed to go? She hesitated. Then she glanced at my coat. There are hotels. My cards are frozen. You still have friends. I called too. They would not answer. That part was also true. I had warned my closest associates not to respond. My mother sighed as if I were exhausting her. My father rose from the table. This conversation is over. I need somewhere to sleep. Nathan laughed. Do not look at me. I stared at my father. This is my house. His jaw tightened. No. According to the documents signed this afternoon, it belongs to Carter Legacy Partners. You forged those documents. Be careful. Or what? He stepped closer. Or I will have security remove you. For a moment, I saw him clearly. Not as the father whose approval I had chased. Not as the man I had rescued from debt. He was simply an aging coward standing inside a house his son bought, threatening that son with guards his son paid. My mother touched my shoulder. I looked at her hand until she removed it. Do not make this uglier than it already is, she whispered. I stood. Nathan raised his glass. Look on the bright side. Maybe losing everything will teach you humility. I turned toward him. He expected rage. He wanted me to shout, threaten, beg, or break. Instead, I asked one question. Is that really how you feel? His smile became lazy. You were only useful when you had money. My mother said his name sharply, but he was not finished. You acted like some hero because you paid for things. Nobody asked you to build an empire. Nobody asked you to control our lives. And now that you are broke, what exactly are you? I looked at my mother. She looked away. I looked at my father. He said nothing. Silence was agreement. I nodded once. Understood. That calm frightened them more than anger would have. My mother's eyes searched my face. What does that mean? It means I understand. I walked into the front hall and picked up the suitcase I had placed near the door. It contained 2 shirts, a shaving kit, and a stack of legal papers. My father followed me. You should sign the family separation agreement. He held out a document. Even now, he wanted more. What does it say? That you release any personal against assets held by Carter Legacy Partners. You want me to sign away everything. It protects everyone. Everyone except me. You created this situation. I took the pen from his hand. My mother came into the hall. Richard, maybe we should wait. Nathan appeared behind her. Why? He said the creditors are coming. I looked down at the agreement. It had been drafted quickly. Too quickly. Victor's lawyer had probably prepared it. The document attempted to transfer my remaining visible interests in the family properties to Carter Legacy Partners. It also contained an admission that I had acted irresponsibly and voluntarily surrendered control. I signed. My mother inhaled. My father snatched the pages before the ink dried. Nathan smiled. I handed the pen back. You should read the signature. My father looked down. I had signed my name clearly. Adrian Vale. Beneath it I had written 3 words, under financial duress. His expression shifted. You cannot add that. I just did. Nathan stepped forward. Give him another copy. No, my mother said. Her voice trembled. She finally sensed something she could not name. I opened the door. Cold air rushed into the hall. Snow had started falling. Adrian, she said. I paused. For one stupid second, some wounded part of me hoped she would ask me to stay. Instead, she said, leave the house keys. I placed them on the marble table. The sound was very small. It still felt like a funeral bell. I stepped outside. The door closed behind me. No one followed. I walked down the long driveway while snow settled on my shoulders. The old coat was not warm enough. My shoes slipped twice on the icy pavement. At the iron gate, I turned back. The mansion glowed gold against the dark sky. My family was inside dividing the remains of a fortune they thought had collapsed. My phone vibrated. A message from Clara appeared. The transfers are complete. Victor Hale has taken the bait. Carter Legacy Partners accepted the bridge loan. I called her. She answered immediately. Are you all right? Yes, that was not what I asked. No, I said. But I will be. A black sedan waited across the road, hidden beyond the trees. I walked past it. Clara lowered her voice. The driver is ready. I'm not using him tonight. Where are you going? There is a motel near the highway. You do not need to do that. Yes, I do. Why? Because I need to remember this feeling. The room at the roadside motel cost $79. The carpet smelled like bleach and cigarettes. The heater rattled. A neon vacancy sign blinked red through the curtains. I set the suitcase on the bed and removed the legal papers. The first was a copy of the family separation agreement. The second was the real ownership structure of every asset they believed they had stolen. The Westchester mansion was owned by Vale Residential Management. The penthouse was owned by Crown Urban Properties. The vacation homes were owned by separate holding companies. The family trust held usage rights and limited distributions, not ownership. They had transferred nothing valuable. They had only forged documents, committed wire fraud, accepted loans against assets they did not control, and handed me evidence. The $60 million in accessible accounts were real, but Clara had marked every transfer. Each dollar now sat inside Carter Legacy Partners, where Victor Hale had used it as collateral for a larger acquisition. He thought he had bought my weakness. In reality, he had connected his entire company to a bomb. My phone rang. Victor, I let it ring 3 times before answering. Adrian, he said warmly. I heard you are having a difficult evening. His voice made my skin crawl. You heard correctly. Business can be cruel. So can family. He chuckled. Yes. Nathan told me there was tension. Did he? He is worried about you. I looked at the stained motel wall. I am sure he is. Victor lowered his voice. Why would you? Because I respect what you built. You spent 10 years trying to destroy it. I spent 10 years trying to compete with it. What do you want? A clean purchase of your remaining shares in Vale Crown. I smiled. The company is collapsing. That is why you should sell before the price falls further. How much? $200 million. My shares were worth $12 billion last month. Last month is gone. I said nothing. Victor continued. I can have papers ready tomorrow. Cash settlement. No public humiliation. You walk away with enough to start over. How generous. I am not your enemy, Adrian. That was the lie men like Victor told just before they pushed the knife deeper. What happens if I refuse? Your lenders take everything. Your board removes you. Your employees abandon you. And your family has already chosen its side. He wanted the last sentence to hurt. It did. But pain was useful when you stopped running from it. Send the papers, I said. Victor went quiet. You accept? I said, send the papers. I will have my lawyer contact you. The call ended. I sat on the edge of the bed. Then Clara called again. You heard? I asked. I recorded every word. Good. Victor's board meets in 48 hours. He plans to use the family assets as proof of liquidity. Let him. He is also trying to acquire the public shares he believes you will be forced to sell. Through which broker Northgate Securities buy through Ashavard nominees? Clara paused. All of it? All of it. That could trigger disclosure rules. Split the purchases through the Singapore fund and the Zurich office. And if the price rises, keep buying. She was silent for a moment. Then she asked, how far do you want to take this? I looked at the snow gathering outside. My mother had asked for the keys. My father had demanded my signature. My brother had sold my home to the man trying to bury me. They had not hesitated. Neither would I. Victor thinks he is buying Vale Crown, I said. By the time he realizes the truth, I want to own Hale Meridian. Clara exhaled slowly. And your family? I opened the minibar and poured a small bottle of whiskey into a plastic cup. They wanted everything. The heater rattled. The neon sign blinked. I raised the cup toward my reflection in the dark window. So I am going to give them exactly what they asked for. My phone lit up with a new message. It was from Nathan. A photograph appeared first. He was standing in my penthouse beside Victor Hale, holding a bottle of champagne. Beneath it, he had written one line. Looks like the better man won. I stared at the message until the anger inside me became cold enough to use. Then another notification appeared. Clara had sent a security image from the underground entrance of Vale Crown headquarters. 3 black sport utility vehicles had arrived. Victor's private attorneys were stepping out. Nathan was with them. And in his hand was a forged document appointing him interim chairman of my company. I set down the whiskey. The test was over. The war had begun. Nathan walked into Vale Crown headquarters at 9:15 the next morning wearing my charcoal Brioni suit. I knew it was mine because the left sleeve had been altered by half an inch after a tailor in Milan noticed one shoulder sat slightly higher than the other. Nathan had taken it from the penthouse, paired it with a crimson tie, and entered the lobby as though stealing a man's clothes could make him that man. The security footage played across my laptop in the motel room. Behind him came Victor Hale's attorneys, 6 men and women carrying leather cases. 2 private security guards followed. Nathan did not look nervous. He looked thrilled. He stopped beneath the bronze Vale Crown emblem and raised his forged appointment letter. As interim chairman, I am ordering you to disable Adrian Vale's access immediately. The receptionist, Maria Santos, looked at the letter without touching it. Maria had been with me for 11 years. She had once worked 3 jobs while raising her son alone. When that son needed heart surgery, Vale Crown paid every bill without putting my name on the donation. She looked past Nathan toward the attorneys. Mr. Vale has not notified us of any leadership change. Nathan gave her the smile he used on waiters before complaining about service. My brother no longer controls this company. Maria folded her hands. Then the board secretary will confirm it. I am the board secretary's authority now. No, she said. You are a visitor standing in the lobby. One of Victor's attorneys stepped forward. My name is Charles Mercer. This letter bears the signature of Vale Crown's controlling shareholder. Maria glanced down at it. That signature looks like it was copied from a Christmas card. Nathan's face reddened. Call security. Maria smiled. I already did. The elevators opened. Clara walked out with 12 members of our internal security team. She wore a black suit and no expression. Nathan lifted the document. You work for me now. Clara stopped 3 feet away. No, my appointment is legal. No, you did not even read it. I read the original version last night. The color left his face for one instant. Clara continued. The version Victor Hale's legal team drafted at 7:40 in the evening. The version your father forwarded to a private email account at 8:12. The version you signed at 8:36 using a digital certificate registered to Adrian's former family office. Charles Mercer turned toward Nathan. You said the authorization came directly from Adrian. It did. Clara raised her tablet. Would you like me to play the recording of you asking your father whether anyone could tell the difference? Nathan's mouth tightened. He looked toward the security guards he had brought. Remove her. Neither man moved. Clara addressed them without raising her voice. Your employer is Metropolitan Protective Services. Vale Crown acquired Metropolitan Protective Services 6 months ago. The taller guard blinked. Clara looked at him. Mr. Ellis, your daughter starts at Columbia in September. Her scholarship was approved by our Education Foundation. His gaze dropped. Clara turned to the other guard. Mr. Ramirez, your mortgage is financed through Crown Community Bank. He slowly removed his hand from his jacket. Nathan stared at them. What are you doing? The taller guard stepped away from Clara. Our orders were to prevent violence, then prevent her from touching me. No one is touching you. Clara nodded toward the glass doors. You are free to leave. Nathan laughed too loudly. You think this scares me? Victor owns enough debt to force this company into restructuring. He owns nothing. Charles Mercer frowned. That is inaccurate. Clara looked at him. The alleged lender claims were withdrawn at 6 this morning. By whom? The lenders. That is impossible. It became possible when every lender received full payment before dawn. Charles went still. Nathan's confidence cracked. Adrian said he was broke. Clara's eyes were cold. Adrian said he was having a difficult week. I paused the footage. Nathan's face remained frozen on the screen, mouth slightly open, eyes searching for an explanation his pride would accept. My phone rang. It was my mother. I let it ring until the last second. Hello, Adrian, where are you? Her voice was sharp, almost breathless. At a motel. I did not ask you to sleep in some filthy motel. You asked for my keys. That was an emotional moment. It seemed very clear. She lowered her voice. Your brother went to your office. I know. He believes he is helping. He forged a corporate appointment. Your father said the document was valid. My father is not a lawyer. He had legal advice from Victor Hale. She said nothing. I opened the curtains. Morning traffic moved along the highway beyond the parking lot. A delivery truck idled beside a diner. A woman scraped ice from the windshield of an old sedan. My mother finally spoke. Victor says he can stabilize Vale Crown. Victor says many things. He offered Nathan a position. I am sure he did. He is trying to protect the family. No, he is trying to use the family. Her breathing changed. You sound very calm. I slept well. After everything that happened, especially after everything that happened. She did not like that answer. Adrian, the bank called this morning. Which bank? Crown Community. What did they say? They are reviewing our accounts. Your accounts? The family accounts. I leaned against the window. They are not family accounts anymore. What does that mean? You transferred them to Carter Legacy Partners. We did that to protect them. Then Carter Legacy Partners can answer the bank's questions. Do not play games with me. I am not playing. Her voice softened suddenly. It was the tone she used when she wanted something expensive. You know I never wanted any of this. You signed the transfer orders. Your father put papers in front of me. You read contracts for your foundation every week. This was different. Yes. This time the victim was me. She inhaled sharply. We are your family. You remembered that quickly. Adrian, I have a meeting. With whom? Myself. I ended the call. Clara arrived 20 minutes later, carrying 2 coffees and a garment bag. She looked around the motel room at the stained carpet and rattling heater. You proved your point. Did I? You stayed here. That was not the point. She handed me a coffee. Victor filed an emergency petition before sunrise. He is seeking temporary control of Vale Crown based on the agreement your father made. He knows it will fail. He only needs confusion. He plans to pressure 3 institutional investors into selling. Which 3? Bradford Pension, Sterling Life, and Norwood Municipal. Call their trustees. They will want reassurance from you. They will get documentation from Ashford nominees. Clara stared at me. You still do not want anyone to know Ashford belongs to you. Not yet. She placed the garment bag on the bed. Inside was a navy suit, white shirt and dark blue tie. You are meeting Victor? He thinks I am signing the sale agreement. You could let legal handle it. I want to see his face when he believes he has won. Clara sat in the only chair. There is another problem. Good. She ignored that. Carter Legacy Partners borrowed $120 million from Hale Meridian overnight. Against what? The mansion, the penthouse, the 2 vacation homes, and the $60 million they transferred. Victor lent them more than the assets were worth. He expected to acquire Vale Crown today. The loan was a reward for Nathan, or a leash, both. I sipped the coffee. What did my family do with the money? Your father moved 20 million into a private brokerage account. Your mother transferred 8 million to her foundation. Nathan withdrew 5 million and placed a deposit on a yacht. I looked at her, a yacht, a sunseeker named Sovereign. He has never operated anything larger than a golf cart. He hired a captain, of course he did. The remaining money stayed inside Carter Legacy Partners. Mark every movement. Already done. I picked up the separation agreement. Has the Westchester house transfer been recorded? They attempted to record it. The county rejected the deed because Carter Legacy Partners did not hold title. Do they know? Not yet. The penthouse? The buyer's attorney requested proof of ownership. Victor will provide false proof. He already did. Perfect. Clara's expression tightened. You keep saying that. Because every lie gives us another lock on the door. This could end with your parents in prison. I looked at her. They had multiple chances to stop. They are still your parents. That fact seems to matter only when consequences arrive. She held my gaze for a moment. Then she nodded. The car is outside. Victor chose the Lancaster Club for our meeting. It was a private dining club where old money pretended not to notice new money until new money bought the building. Dark wood covered the walls. Oil portraits watched from gilded frame. The waiters moved silently over thick carpet. Victor sat in a corner room beneath a painting of a fox hunt. Nathan sat beside him. My brother had removed my Brioni suit and changed into a cream Tom Ford jacket. He wore a gold watch. Victor had probably given him that morning. Charles Mercer sat across from them with a stack of documents. Victor rose when I entered. He was 52, silver-haired, broad-shouldered, and carefully tanned. His smile was warm enough to fool anyone who had never watched him dismantle a company. Adrian, Victor, he gestured toward the empty chair. Thank you for coming. Nathan looked me up and down. At least you found a decent suit. I sat. Victor poured coffee for me himself. That unpleasantness at headquarters was unnecessary. Nathan entered my building with forged documents and private guards. Nathan scoffed. They were not forged. Charles Mercer stared at the table. Victor smiled. Misunderstandings happen when organizations face instability. My organization is stable. Then why did you ask your family for $3 million? Nathan turned toward Victor. You told him? Victor's eyes stayed on me. Your family is concerned. My family sold information to you. I bought an opportunity. You bought stolen documents. He leaned back. You are in no position to accuse anyone. Why not? Because by tomorrow afternoon, your board will be forced to review your leadership. Your family trust has withdrawn support. Several lenders are nervous. The market is waiting for blood. You sound excited. I admire decisive moments. Nathan leaned forward. Sign the deal, Adrian. I looked at him. You read it? I do not need to. That sentence could be engraved on your tombstone. His jaw tightened. Victor placed a hand lightly on Nathan's arm. Let us keep this professional. Charles slid the documents toward me. The purchase agreement offered $200 million for my controlling interest in Vale Crown Holdings. It included a non-compete clause lasting 15 years. It required me to accept personal liability for undisclosed corporate losses. It transferred voting rights immediately, before payment. It was not a purchase agreement. It was an execution order. I turned the pages slowly. Victor watched me. You built something remarkable, he said. There is no shame in knowing when to step away. Is that what you told the founders of Caraway Steel? His smile faded slightly. They failed to adapt. You froze their credit line, acquired their debt, and forced a liquidation. They were over-leveraged. The founder killed himself. Nathan shifted uncomfortably. Victor remained still. That was tragic. You attended the funeral. I respected him. You bought his home the next week. A property became available. I closed the agreement. Victor's smile returned. Do we have a deal? No. Nathan slammed his palm on the table. Stop pretending you have choices. I turned toward him. What did Victor promise you? That is none of your business. A board seat? He said nothing. $10 million? Victor's eyes narrowed. Nathan looked away. I continued. He promised you the Vale Crown name, did he not? Nathan's face betrayed him. That was the weakness Victor had found. Nathan did not merely want money. He wanted my identity, my victories, my reputation. He wanted people to stand when he entered a room and believe he had earned it. Victor had offered him a costume. Adrian, Victor said, your brother has valuable insight into the company. Nathan thinks operating margin is the space between two parking lines. Nathan stood. You always do that. Do what? Talk to me like I am stupid. I have spent years talking to you like you are not. His face turned red. You think you are better than everyone because you worked hard. No, I think I am better at running Vale Crown because I built Vale Crown. Our parents sacrificed for you. I paid off their sacrifices with interest. You bought things and called it love. The line landed closer to the bone than I expected. For a moment, I saw the years behind it. Birthdays I had missed. Dinners interrupted by calls, promises replaced with checks. There was truth in his anger, but truth did not excuse theft. I gave you opportunities, I said. You gave me leftovers. I gave you $6 million for a nightclub. You knew it would fail. I begged you not to open it. You wanted me to fail so you could rescue me. I studied him. He believed that. Perhaps he needed to. Otherwise, he would have to admit that every disaster in his life carried his own fingerprints. Victor broke the silence. This family conflict can be resolved privately. I looked at him. You used Nathan to steal internal records. He approached me. Nathan glanced at Victor. Victor continued without looking at him. He was eager to help. The first crack appeared. Nathan Hertner, not future chairman. Useful informant. I reached for the coffee. What happens to Carter Legacy Partners if I refuse to sign? Victor's tone cooled. The loan becomes due. Nathan frowned. You said we had 18 months. You have 18 months if the Vale Crown transaction closes. My brother turned toward him. That was not in the agreement. Charles Mercer finally spoke. It is in Section 14. Nathan stared at him. You told me Section 14 was standard security language. It is security against what? Victor answered. Failure, Nathan's voice dropped. You cannot take the house. If the loan defaults, Hale Meridian will enforce every available claim. My parents live there. Then encourage your brother to sign. Nathan looked at me. The arrogance was still there, but fear had entered beneath it. You planned this, he said. Which part? You knew Victor would lend us money. I suspected he would. You set us up. I told you I was in trouble. You chose to steal from me. You wanted us to. I wanted to know whether you would. Victor's gaze sharpened. For the first time, he was no longer enjoying himself. What exactly are you doing, Adrian? I smiled. You bought the penthouse. Through a lawful agreement. You bought it from someone who did not own it. Nathan's face went blank. Victor did not move. The trust controlled the property, he said. No Crown Urban Properties owns it. Charles opened his case and pulled out a file. Victor looked at him. Verify that. Charles flipped through several pages. His expression changed. Nathan sat down slowly. I continued. The Westchester Mansion belongs to Vale Residential Management. The Lake House belongs to Blue Cedar Estates. The Aspen Chalet belongs to North Star Lodging. Victor's voice became quiet. The family trust listed all 4 assets. It listed residential rights. You allowed the trust to represent ownership. I allowed my family to live well. Nathan whispered. The deeds had Adrian's signature. Copies, I said. Not originals. Victor looked toward Charles. The attorney had gone pale. The collateral package may be defective, Charles said. Maybe. We need to review title records. You should have done that before lending $120 million. Victor's stare could have cut steel. I leaned back. The loan is still valid. The collateral is not. Nathan looked from Victor to me. What does that mean? It means Carter Legacy Partners owes Hale Meridian $120 million secured by assets it never owned. His lips parted. But the $60 million is real. Was real? What did you do? I did nothing. You moved it. Victor looked at Nathan. Where is the money? Nathan swallowed. Some of it is invested. How much remains liquid? I do not know. Victor's voice sharpened. How much? Maybe $27 million. The room became silent. Victor turned to me. You orchestrated fraud. No. I documented fraud. You planted misleading information. I told my family I might lose control of the company. That was true. Nathan stared at me. How was it true? Every controlling shareholder might lose control of a company. Life contains uncertainty. Victor's hand tightened around his cup. You think this defeats me? No. I stood. This only tells me how careless you become when you smell weakness. He remained seated. You are making a serious mistake. I made the serious mistake years ago when I believed blood created loyalty. Nathan rose too. Adrian, wait. I looked at him. For the first time since the test began, he had no insult ready. What? I asked. His eyes flicked toward Victor, the loan. We need to fix it. You wanted everything. I did not know the properties were not inside the trust. You never asked. You made us believe they were ours. I let you call them yours. That is the same thing. No, ownership survives a courthouse search. Victor stood slowly. This meeting is not over. It is for me. You walk out now, and I file against Vale Crown before noon. File whatever you like. I will freeze your pending acquisitions. You mean the acquisitions financed through Northgate Securities? His face changed. Oh, I saw it. Victor had not expected me to know. I stepped closer. Northgate is exposed, Victor. Your margin loans are secured by Hale Meridian shares, and Hale Meridian shares have been quietly purchased for 6 weeks. His eyes hardened. By whom? I smiled. That is the question you should have asked before breakfast. I walked toward the door. Nathan followed me into the corridor. Adrian. I kept walking. He grabbed my sleeve. I stopped and looked at his hand. He released me. Mom is scared. She should be. Dad thinks the bank made a mistake. He always thinks consequences are clerical errors. Nathan lowered his voice. We can undo the transfers. No, we will give everything back. It was never yours to give. What do you want? I studied my brother. Yesterday, he had photographed himself in my home and told me the better man had won. Today, fear had stripped away the performance. I want you to remember this moment, I said. What moment? The moment you realized Victor never intended to make you chairman. Nathan's face tightened. He promised me. Victor promises everyone a seat at the table. Then he serves them on it. I left him standing beneath the portraits. In the car, Clara handed me a tablet. Hale Meridian shares are up 4%. Victor is supporting the price. He purchased through 3 subsidiaries. Let him spend. Ashford now controls 9%. Not enough. The Singapore fund holds 6. And Zurich? 4. 19 total. Just below disclosure thresholds in each vehicle. When do the options expire? Friday. Then Victor has 3 days. Clara swiped to another screen. Maria found something in the documents Nathan brought to headquarters. What? A list of Vale Crown projects Victor intends to cancel after the takeover. I read the names. The Employee Housing Fund, the Rural Hospital Network, the manufacturing plant in Ohio, the Education Foundation. Programs that made less money than our luxury divisions, but employed thousands of people. Victor did not want Vale Crown. He wanted to strip it. Clara watched my face. There is more. She opened an audio file. Nathan's voice played first. If Adrian refuses to sell, we pressure the board. Victor answered. And if the board stays loyal, we give the press the medical story. My finger stopped. Clara looked at me. What medical story? I did not answer immediately. 5 years earlier, after working through a fever and ignoring chest pain for 2 days, I collapsed during a negotiation in Boston. Doctors found an electrical disorder in my heart. It was manageable. It was private. Only 4 people knew, Clara, my physician. My mother and me. The recording continued. Victor asked, is it documented? Nathan said, Mom has the hospital report. We can say Adrian hid a serious condition from shareholders. Clara's face became hard. Your mother gave him your medical records. I looked out the window. Snowmelt streaked the glass. The city moved around us, bright and indifferent. Not yet, I said. What? She has not given them to him yet. How do you know? Because Victor asked whether it was documented. Clara understood. He is waiting for proof. Then we give him proof. She stared at me. You want to leak your own records? I want to give him a version he cannot resist. That is dangerous. So is believing my mother has reached the bottom. My phone rang again. This time it was my father, I answered. Adrian, come home. Why? We need to discuss the properties. What about them? The bank claims the deeds are invalid. The bank is correct. You told us the trust held the homes. I told you the trust protected your use of them. You deceived us. I financed your life for 15 years. That does not give you the right to humiliate us. I laughed once. He went silent. What is funny? He demanded. You threw me into the snow last night. We believed creditors were coming. And now? Now we know the situation was exaggerated. No. Now you know the money might still exist. His voice became colder. Your mother has not cried when I left. That is cruel. It is accurate. He exhaled. Victor says the loan can be resolved if you cooperate. Victor created the loan. We signed in good faith. You signed after forging my authorization. A pause. Then he said, family matters are complicated. Force is simple. Do not threaten your father. I did not threaten you. I described what you did. His voice lowered. You owe us. There it was again. The debt they believed my birth had created. For what? I asked. For raising you. For supporting you before you became successful. For standing beside you. You stood behind me with open hands. You arrogant bastard. I let the insult sit between us. Then I said, tell Moms I am sending her a document. What document? She will understand. I ended the call. Clara watched me. What are you sending? A forged medical report. She did not like it. I could see that. The report will say your condition is terminal, she said. Yes. And that stress could cause immediate cognitive impairment. Yes. Victor will use it to petition for emergency control. Yes. Your mother will hand it to him. I looked at the city beyond the window. Let us find out. The report reached my mother's private email at 11:20 in the morning. It appeared to come from my physician's office. The diagnosis was severe. The prognosis was 6 months. The warning stated that I might already be experiencing impaired judgment. At 11:33, my mother opened it. At 11:40, she forwarded it to my father. At 11:46, my father called Nathan. At noon 12, Nathan sent it to Victor Hale. 39 minutes. That was how long my mother needed to turn my death sentence into a business opportunity. Clara stood beside me in the command room at Vale Crown headquarters as the forwarding chain appeared on the screen. No one spoke. The loyal part of me had expected a phone call. Even after the mansion, even after the forged transfer, even after the keys on the marble table. Some buried piece of me had thought she would read the words terminal condition and run to find her son. Instead, she forwarded the report. Clara quietly asked, "Do you want to stop?" I stared at my mother's email address. No. At 1:13, Victor filed an emergency petition claiming I was medically unfit to control Vale Crown. At 1:20, financial reporters received anonymous copies of the report. At 1:35, Vale Crown shares fell 7%. At 1:40, Victor began buying. At 1:42, Ashford nominees sold him every share he wanted. Clara looked at me. "You are feeding him." "Yes." "Why?" "Because he is borrowing against Hale Meridian to buy Vale Crown. And when the medical report is exposed as false, his petition collapses. The market rebounds. His borrowed position turns against him, and Ashford uses the cash from the sale to exercise the Hale Meridian options." Exactly. A warning flashed on the main screen. Northgate Securities had increased Victor's margin requirement. Another warning followed. Hale Meridian had pledged an additional block of treasury shares. Clara's eyes widened. "He is giving us the company." "Not yet." My phone buzzed. A message from my mother appeared. "Adrian, I heard there may be concerns about your health. Please call me when you can." I read it twice. Not "I saw the report." Not "Are you dying?" Not "Where are you?" Concerns about your health. Carefully worded. Designed to create distance from the document she had already weaponized. I typed a reply. "I am tired. I need the family to support me." 3 dots appeared, then vanished, then appeared again. Her answer came. "Of course, we only want what is best for everyone." I showed the message to Clara. She closed her eyes for a moment. "What now?" she asked. I looked at the live market feed. Victor was buying faster. Nathan was calling board members. My father was pressuring the family attorney to validate the forged transfers. My mother was preparing to testify that I had become unstable. They believed I was sick. They believed I was weak. They believed the empire was open. I picked up the black folder Clara had placed on my desk 2 weeks earlier. "Now we let them enter." "Enter what?" "The first room." She waited. I turned toward the glass wall overlooking the trading floor. "By sunset, Victor will think he owns enough Vale Crown shares to demand a board vote. He will. Schedule it. For when? Tomorrow morning? That is fast. He will accept. And the family? Invite them." Clara understood the shape of the coming scene. "All of them?" "All of them." I looked down at the message from my mother. Then I typed one final instruction to the board secretary. "Prepare the executive chamber. Open the shareholder gallery. Arrange live press access." Clara read it over my shoulder. "You want cameras." They wanted my humiliation to be public. My reflection stared back at me from the darkened glass. The man in the reflection no longer looked tired. "Tomorrow, I am going to be generous." The board meeting began at 9 in the morning beneath 300 square feet of smoked glass. Every seat in the executive chamber was filled. 12 directors sat around the black walnut table. Legal counsel lined the rear wall. Reporters waited behind the glass partition overlooking the shareholder gallery. Camera crews stood beneath muted lights, their lenses aimed at the chair reserved for me. Victor arrived 7 minutes early. He entered with Nathan on his right and Charles Mercer on his left, carrying the confidence of a man who believed the room had already surrendered. My father came next, wearing a dark suit and the expression he used at funerals when he wanted people to admire his strength. My mother wore white. She always wore white when she wanted to look innocent. She had chosen a cream wool dress, pearl earrings, and the necklace I gave her. Her eyes moved across the chamber until they found me at the far end of the table. I was already seated. The surprise on her face lasted less than a second. Then she arranged concern over it. "Adrian," she said softly, "you should not be here." The reporters heard her through the room microphones. That was why she had spoken. I looked at the empty chair beside Victor. "You brought my whole family." "We came because we are worried," she said. Nathan sat without looking at me. He had not slept. Purple shadows sat beneath his eyes, and his right knee bounced under the table. Victor took the chair directly across from mine. "You look well," he said. "I slept better than expected." His smile tightened. The board secretary, Daniel Price, called the meeting to order. Daniel had spent 26 years in corporate law and possessed the rare talent of making a death sentence sound like a scheduling notice. "This emergency session has been convened at the request of shareholders representing an alleged 22% of outstanding voting interests." Alleged. Victor heard the word. His gaze shifted toward Daniel. Charles Mercer opened a leather folder. "Hale Meridian Capital, together with aligned shareholders, now controls sufficient voting authority to demand immediate consideration of executive incapacity, fiduciary misconduct, and emergency succession." Daniel looked at him over half-frame glasses. "The submitted schedule identifies 13%. Additional holders have provided proxies. Copies were not included. They will be." "When?" Charles hesitated. Victor answered. "Before the vote." Daniel folded his hands. Then no vote can occur until they are verified. Victor leaned back. Verification should take minutes. It will take as long as accuracy requires. I almost smiled. Victor had entered expecting fear. Instead, he had found procedure. Men like him hated procedure when they were not controlling it. One of the independent directors, Margaret Shaw, spoke next. Margaret was 61, silver-haired, and merciless with weak arguments. She had run an industrial group through 2 recessions and a hostile takeover. Before we discuss succession, she said, I want to know why confidential medical records were distributed to reporters. My mother lowered her eyes. Victor looked toward Charles. The records raised material concerns. Margaret did not look at Victor. She looked at me. Did you authorize their release? No. Did you authorize your family to possess them? No. My father shifted. Victor's tone remained smooth. The source is less important than the content. Margaret turned to him. Lackly disclosure of medical records is less important than your interpretation of them. I am focused on shareholder protection. You acquired shares after receiving those records. I acquired shares because the market mispriced risk. You helped create the risk. The room became still. Victor's smile disappeared. I object to that characterization. Margaret nodded toward the gallery. Then explained the timing. Charles pushed a packet across the table. The company was already facing instability before Mr. Hale received any medical information. Margaret opened the packet. Instability caused by anonymous reports. She turned a page. Anonymous reports first published by a financial blog funded by a Hale Meridian portfolio company. Charles glanced toward Victor. Victor did not move. The first blade had entered. Not deep, but clean. I watched Nathan notice. He looked at Victor as if seeing a crack in a wall he thought was solid. Daniel continued. The board will first hear the petition regarding executive capacity. Charles stood. His presentation had been prepared for cameras. He spoke of duty, continuity, market confidence, and the danger of allowing personal pride to endanger employees and investors. He never once said I was dying. He let the report say it for him. He projected it onto the wall. My name appeared beneath the Vale Medical Center letterhead. Terminal cardiac deterioration. Projected survival of less than 6 months. Episodes of impaired judgment likely. My mother covered her mouth, a perfect gesture. Too perfect. The camera moved toward her. She lowered her head as if overwhelmed. I remembered how quickly she had forwarded the document. 39 minutes. I wondered whether she had practiced the gesture in a mirror. Charles turned toward the directors. No one takes pleasure in this, Mr. Vale built this institution. His accomplishments are undeniable, but leadership cannot become a monument to one man's denial. I said nothing. He continued. Yesterday, while facing a severe liquidity crisis, Mr. Vale attempted to conceal material health information and manipulated market expectations. Margaret interrupted. What liquidity crisis? Charles looked at her. The one reported throughout the financial press. That is not an answer. Hale Meridian received communications from multiple lenders. Daniel slid a document toward Margaret. The lenders have confirmed there is no default. Charles frowned. The confirmations came after emergency payments. Payments made from unrestricted cash reserves, Daniel said. Victor spoke for the first time in several minutes. Cash reserves can be moved to create appearances. I looked at him. So can medical reports. His eyes met mine. The room tightened. Charles turned toward me. Are you alleging the report is false? My mother looked up. My father became very still. Nathan stopped bouncing his knee. I allowed the silence to stretch. Then I asked, where did you get it? Charles's gaze moved toward Victor. Victor answered. A concerned member of your family. My mother's face changed, only slightly. She had not expected him to say it openly. Which member voice remained calm. That is protected. Protected by what? Attorney privilege. You are not my family's attorney. Charles stepped in. Hale Meridian's legal team received the report during due diligence. From whom? We are not required to disclose confidential sources. I looked at Daniel. Is that true? No. Charles's jaw tightened. Daniel continued. If the document is being used to remove a chief executive, establish a voting coalition, and justify market purchases, the chain of custody is directly relevant. Victor turned toward my mother. She saw it. The moment he chose her. As insulation. My father saw it too. He leaned toward her and whispered something. The microphones caught only 2 words. Say nothing. Margaret looked at me. Mr. Vale, are you medically fit to serve? Yes. Have you been diagnosed with a terminal condition? No. A murmur passed through the gallery. Victor leaned forward. Then submit to an independent examination. I already did. That stopped him. Daniel placed a sealed envelope on the table. The board's medical committee received a report at 7 this morning from Dr. Samuel Greer, chief of cardiology at Vale Medical Center. Charles stared at the envelope. Victor's eyes moved to me. I remained still. Margaret broke the seal. She read for nearly a minute. The room seemed to shrink around the paper. Finally, she looked up. Mr. Vale has a stable managed cardiac rhythm disorder. It does not impair cognition. It is not terminal. There has been no significant deterioration. My mother's mouth opened. Nathan whispered, "What?" Margaret continued. The report presented by Hale Meridian is fraudulent. The shareholder gallery erupted. Reporters began speaking into microphones at once. Camera shutters clicked in a rapid metallic storm. Victor did not look at the gallery. He looked at Charles. Charles had gone pale. "This requires verification," he said. "It has been verified," Margaret replied, "by a physician whose hospital receives donations from Vale Crown." Daniel slid another document across the table. Two additional cardiologists reviewed the underlying tests, one from Johns Hopkins, one from the Cleveland Clinic. Charles did not touch the page. I looked at my mother. She stared at the false report on the wall. The performance had left her face. For the first time, she looked genuinely afraid. "Mom," I said, her eyes moved toward me. "Where did you get that report?" She shook her head. "I do not know. You forwarded it. I received it anonymously. From my physician's office. That is what the email said. You did not call me. I was frightened. You called Dad. We needed to let us understand what was happening. You forwarded it to Nathan." Her voice became defensive. "He is your brother. Nathan sent it to Victor." Nathan looked at her. "You told me Victor could help." She turned toward him. "You said he would protect the company." My father leaned forward. "This is not the place for family accusations." I looked at him. "You tried to use the same report to have me declared incompetent." His face stiffened. "We sought legal advice. You sought control. We believed you were dying. Then why did you not visit me?" No one answered. The cameras kept recording. My mother's eyes filled. Real tears this time. "I did not know where you were. You knew I was at a motel." Her lips trembled. "You would not answer. You sent one message after the report leaked." "I did not know what to say." "You knew what to send." She flinched. Victor finally spoke. "This emotional theater is irrelevant." Margaret turned toward him. "A fraudulent medical report was used to drive down the share price while you accumulated stock. That is not theater." Victor's face became hard. "I did not create the report." "No," I said. "You merely financed its distribution." Charles stood abruptly. "That allegation is defamatory." Daniel touched a control on the table. The wall display changed. An invoice appeared. "Issued by Blackridge Communications. Strategic Media Deployment. Emergency Executive Transition Narrative. Client, Hale Meridian Capital." The amount was $2,400,000. Victor's head turned slowly toward Charles. Charles stared at the invoice. I continued. "Blackridge paid the financial bloggers who published the bankruptcy story. Blackridge also arranged the anonymous briefings about my health." Victor looked at me. "How did you obtain that?" "Your chief communications officer approved payment through a portfolio company. He would not give you access." "He did not." A second document appeared. A subpoena acknowledgement from Blackridge. The date was that morning. Victor's jaw tightened. "You had no grounds for a subpoena." "The grounds were created when someone forged my medical records." He leaned back. For the first time since I had known him, Victor Hale looked uncertain. Not defeated, but forced to calculate. I could almost see the numbers moving behind his eyes. He still believed his shares protected him. He still believed he could force the vote. He still believed the attack could be redirected toward my family. Charles whispered something to him. Victor nodded once. Then he looked at Nathan. "Carter, you provided Hale Meridian with the report. Is that correct?" Nathan stared at him. "You told me it was necessary. That was not my question. You said Adrian was unstable. Did you provide the report?" My brother's face flushed. "My mother sent it to me." Victor turned toward my mother. "Mrs. Carter, did you provide the document to your son?" She looked at me. Then at Victor. Then at the cameras. "I believed it was authentic." Victor's voice sharpened. "Did you provide it?" My father struck the table with his palm. "Do not interrogate my wife." Victor did not look at him. "This meeting concerns corporate fraud. You involved us. You approached me." Nathan stared at Victor. "No, you approached me at the Sterling Club." Silence fell again. Victor's eyes became dangerous. Nathan continued, his voice rising. "You said Adrian was vulnerable. You said if I helped you, you would make me chairman." My mother whispered, "Nathan, stop." But the fear had broken him open. "He promised me a board seat, $10 million. He said the family trust controlled the properties." Charles reached for Nathan's arm. Nathan pulled away. "And you said the medical report would make the board vote easy." Victor spoke quietly. "You are confused. I am not confused. You have been under severe pressure. You used me." The words came out smaller than the rest. That was the wound beneath everything. Nathan had wanted to become important. Victor had made him feel chosen. Now, in front of directors, reporters, and our parents, he realized he had only been useful. Victor looked toward Daniel. This testimony is unreliable. Mr. Carter has clear personal resentment toward his brother and an obvious interest in avoiding liability for his own conduct. Nathan stared at him. You said we were partners. Victor gave him nothing. No sympathy, no explanation. He simply looked away. Something inside Nathan collapsed. I watched it happen. His shoulders dropped. The imitation of confidence disappeared. For one moment, he looked like the boy who used to wait outside my bedroom when thunder shook the windows. Then anger replaced it. He reached into his jacket. Security moved instantly. Clara stood at the rear wall and raised one hand. The guard stopped when Nathan placed his phone on the table. I recorded him, he said. Victor's face changed. My mother whispered his name. Nathan unlocked the phone with shaking fingers. I started recording after he changed the loan terms. Charles stood. This meeting cannot receive stolen attorney communications. I was in the room, Nathan said. You were part of a privileged negotiation. I was not your client. Victor's eyes stayed fixed on the phone. Nathan, he said softly. Think carefully. My brother laughed. It sounded broken. I did. That was my mistake. He pressed play. Victor's voice filled the chamber. If Adrian signs, we keep the family comfortable until the transition settles. Nathan's recorded voice asked, and if he does not, then we enforce the Carter loan, remove him through the medical petition, and liquidate the family properties. My parents live in that house. Not for long if your brother remains stubborn. Nathan's voice became quieter. You said I would become chairman. A title can be arranged. Will I control the company? Victor laughed in the recording. No one gives control to a man who steals from his brother. The room went dead. Victor did not move. Nathan stared at him with wet eyes. You thought I was stupid. Victor's reply was cold. I thought you were willing. That line ended whatever remained between them. Margaret looked toward Daniel. I moved to dismiss the incapacity petition in full. Another director raised his hand. Seconded. The vote took less than a minute. Unanimous. Victor's first attack had failed. The report was exposed. The petition was dead. Nathan's value to him had collapsed in public. But the room was not finished. Daniel adjusted his glasses. The board will now address the shareholder demand for an immediate control vote. Victor straightened. A trace of confidence returned. He had lost the medical argument. He still believed he possessed enough voting power to challenge me directly. Charles recovered first. Hale Meridian and aligned investors control 22%. We demand the company recognize our proxies. Daniel looked toward the legal team seated against the wall. A woman named Helen Cho stood and carried a thick binder to the table. Helen ran our securities compliance division and had the patience of a surgeon. We reviewed the proxy submissions at 8:40, she said. Victor looked at her. And 7% are invalid. Charles frowned. On what basis? 3 vehicles failed beneficial ownership disclosure. 2 proxies were signed after their underlying shares had been lent. 1 was issued by an entity dissolved last year. Victor's expression did not change. Then we still hold 15%. Helen noddedly. Enough to demand a vote. Yes. He looked at me. There it is. His voice steadied. The performance is over, Adrian. You exposed a forged report. Congratulations. You have not answered the central issue. What issue? Whether this company still belongs to you. The gallery quieted. Victor stood. He looked toward the directors, not the cameras. Hale Meridian formally nominates me as interim executive chairman pending a full strategic review. Charles distributed the nomination packets. Victor continued. Vale Crown's current leadership has created instability, hidden material risks, and allowed personal family conflict to contaminate corporate governance. The company requires discipline. Margaret looked at me. Do you wish to respond? I folded my hands. Not yet. Victor smiled. He mistook patience for hesitation. I also move for an immediate suspension of Adrian Vale's voting authority, pending review of transactions conducted through undisclosed affiliates. Daniel's eyes narrowed. Which affiliates? Ashford nominees, Zurich Continental, Meridian Asia Strategic. Clara's gaze shifted toward me from the rear wall. Victor had found 3 of the vehicles, not all of them, but enough to show he had started digging. He looked directly at me. You accused me of buying under pressure. Let us discuss your purchases. I leaned back. Go ahead. You used concealed entities to accumulate Hale Meridian shares while creating false market conditions around Vale Crown. You created the conditions, you profited from them, so did you. I acted on public information. You paid to make it public. Charles stepped in. This exchange is unproductive. Victor ignored him. He lifted a document. I have obtained evidence that Ashford Nominees is controlled by a Vale Crown affiliate. The directors turned toward me. The first genuine danger entered the room. If Victor proved Vale Crown funds had been used to acquire Hale Meridian without disclosure, He could delay the vote, freeze the shares, and open a regulatory investigation. That would not destroy me. But it would buy him time, and time was the one thing his margin position needed. Margaret looked at me. Is Ashford controlled by Vale Crown? No, Victor smiled. Is it controlled by you? I said nothing. He held up the document. A trust declaration signed 11 years ago lists you as the ultimate beneficiary. Clara's expression changed. She had not expected him to find it. Neither had I. The trust declaration was real, old, buried, but real. Victor had reached deeper than I anticipated. Murmurs moved through the gallery. Charles stood again. Given this undisclosed beneficial interest, we request immediate suspension of all Ashford voting rights and referral to federal regulators. Daniel turned toward me. Adrian? I looked at the document in Victor's hand. He had found the first thread, not the whole structure, but enough to pull. My mother watched me with sudden hope. My father straightened. Nathan looked confused. Victor saw the shift in the room and pressed harder. You built a network of hidden buyers while accusing others of manipulation. His voice rose. You concealed ownership, moved capital across borders, and targeted Hale Meridian while serving as chief executive of Vale Crown. He placed the document on the table. You are not the victim in this room. The cameras turned toward me. For the first time that morning, the balance tilted. The directors waited. Regulators were already watching. One careless answer could freeze billions. I looked at Clara. She gave the smallest shake of her head. The trust declaration was supposed to have been dissolved years earlier. Supposed to, not confirmed, Victor smiled. Perhaps your memory is impaired after all. My mother covered her mouth again. This time, not for the cameras. She believed he had me. Victor turned toward Daniel. Call the vote. Before Daniel could answer, the doors at the rear of the chamber opened. An elderly man entered carrying a weathered leather case. He was thin, stooped, and dressed in a brown suit that looked older than Nathan. His white hair was combed straight back. He walked with a black cane and ignored every camera in the room. Victor's smile vanished. I knew the man, so did he. Edwin Ashford had not appeared in public for 12 years. He had founded Ashford Nominees before Victor bought his first company. He had handled royal estates, sovereign trusts, and fortunes large enough to move currencies. He walked to the table and placed the leather case beside me. Victor stared at him. You are dead. Edwin removed his gloves. People have said worse. Then he looked at the document Victor had presented. That declaration was revoked 9 years ago. Charles stood. We have no record of revocation. Edwin opened the case. You do now. He placed an original deed on the table. Heavy paper, blue seal. 3 witness signatures. Daniel lifted it carefully. Edwin continued. Ashford Nominees is not controlled by Adrian Vale, Vale Crown Holdings. Victor's face hardened. Then who controls it? Edwin looked at him. A charitable endowment. For whose benefit? Employees displaced by predatory corporate liquidation. The gallery went silent. Edwin turned one page. The endowment was established after the Caraway Steel collapse. Victor's face drained. The founder who had killed himself. The home Victor bought. The workers he discarded. Edwin looked at me. Mr. Vale contributed the initial capital anonymously. Margaret stared at me. I said nothing. Edwin faced Victor again. Ashford's purchases of Hale Meridian shares were made by an independent fiduciary committee. Vale did not direct them. Victor looked toward Charles. Charles had no answer. Edwin continued. The committee began accumulating Hale Meridian after reviewing your debt exposure, governance failures, and history of asset stripping. He paused. We consider your company undervalued because its greatest liability is its chairman. The chamber erupted. Victor struck the table. This is collusion. Edwin turned his calm eyes toward him. No, this is ownership. Daniel looked down at the documents. How much of Hale Meridian does Ashford control? Edwin answered without looking away from Victor. 11% directly. Victor's shoulders loosened slightly. 11 was serious, not fatal. Then Edwin added, combined with allied endowments and irrevocable proxies, 27%. Victor stopped breathing. The room seemed to tilt. His margin loans, his treasury shares, his emergency purchases of Vale Crown. Everything had depended on maintaining control of Hale Meridian. Edwin placed one final envelope on the table. This morning, 2 pension funds and 1 sovereign wealth office assigned us their voting rights. Daniel opened it. Margaret leaned closer. Victor's voice dropped. How much? Edwin looked at him with almost gentle contempt. Enough to call your board meeting this afternoon. For the first time, Victor Hale looked afraid. Not angry. Not calculating. Afraid. His phone began vibrating on the table. Then Charles's phone. Then the phone of every Hale Meridian advisor in the room. Victor looked down. The screen showed a single alert. Hale Meridian Capital had received a formal demand for an emergency shareholder vote. Clara stepped forward from the rear wall and handed me a black folder. I opened it. Inside was the list of Hale Meridian directors prepared for removal. Victor watched me read it. I closed the folder. You wanted to know whether Vale Crown still belonged to me, I said. His mouth tightened. I stood. That was the wrong question. The cameras followed me. The directors remained silent. My family stared. I looked across the table at the man who thought he had entered my company to take my chair. The question is whether Hale Meridian still belongs to you. His phone vibrated again. This time, a red market alert appeared. Hale Meridian shares had fallen 12% in less than 4 minutes. Northgate Securities issued a margin call. Payment due by 2 in the afternoon. Victor looked at the time. It was 10:47. He had 3 hours and 13 minutes to find $900 million. I picked up my coffee. It was still warm. Your board meeting starts at 1, I said. Do not be late. Victor left the executive chamber without answering me. His attorneys followed first, then 2 Hale Meridian advisors, then Charles Mercer, who walked with his phone pressed to his ear and the posture of a man trying to outrun a building collapse. Nathan remained seated. My mother touched his shoulder. He flinched. My father stood slowly and stared at me across the table. You did all of this, he said. I looked at him. Which part? The market attack, the false report, the public spectacle. You helped distribute the report. You created a test. You forged medical documents. I created evidence bait and sent it to one person. My mother's face tightened. You sent it to me because you wanted me to fail. No. I sent it to you because I still hoped you would not. Her eyes filled again. This time I felt nothing. She looked toward the cameras and lowered her voice. Turn those off. Margaret Shaw answered before I could. The meeting remains in session. This is a family matter. Margaret's expression did not change. You used the alleged illness of a public company's chief executive to support a control petition. It stopped being a family matter when it reached the market. My father stepped toward me. You are enjoying this. No. You always wanted us to feel small. I spent 15 years making sure you never had to. You gave us money so you could own us. I gave you money because I thought generosity would create gratitude. He laughed bitterly. You wanted obedience. No. I wanted one phone call. The words stopped him. I continued. When you believed I was bankrupt, I wanted one person in that house to ask whether I was all right. When you believed I was dying, I wanted one person to come find me. My mother covered her mouth. Nathan looked down. My father's face hardened because shame had nowhere else to go. You are not innocent, he said. I never claimed to be. You missed birthdays. You ignored your mother. You humiliated your brother. I missed birthdays building the life you spent. I ignored arguments, not people. And Nathan humiliated himself. Nathan looked up. Do not talk about me like I am not here. I turned toward him. You recorded Victor. He betrayed me. You betrayed me first. His jaw tightened. I know. The admission surprised everyone. My mother whispered his name. Nathan pushed his chair back. I know what I did. He looked at me. I thought you would recover. You sold my home. I thought you would buy another one. You forged an appointment. I thought the company needed someone. You thought that someone was you. His eyes dropped. Yes, there was no performance left in him. That did not erase the fraud. It only made it pathetic instead of theatrical. Daniel Price cleared his throat. The board still has business. My family turned toward him. The incapacity petition has been dismissed. The proposed control vote has been withdrawn pending proxy verification. We must now consider referral of the forged medical report and related market activity. My mother gripped the edge of the table. Referral to whom? Daniel looked at her. Federal authorities. Her face drained. My father stepped forward. There will be no referral involving my wife. That is not your decision. We will cooperate privately. Margaret almost smiled. Privately with whom? My father looked at me. That was the first real appeal. Not apology. Expectation. He believed I would stop it, because I always had traffic fines. Failed businesses, embarrassing photographs, unpaid loans. I had spent years standing between my family and consequences, then wondered why they believed consequences were optional. I looked at Daniel. Proceed according to policy. My mother's hand flew to her chest. Adrian. I did not look at her. Daniel nodded. Legal will preserve all records and notify the appropriate authorities. My father came around the table. You cannot do this. I am not doing it. You are allowing it. Yes. We are your parents. You remembered that after the margin call. He stopped 3 feet away. For a moment, I thought he might strike me. Security moved closer. He saw them. The same kind of guards he had threatened me with in the mansion. His hands curled, then opened. My mother stood beside him. What happens to us now? That depends on what you did. You know what we did. I know some of it. She shook her head. The bank is freezing everything. The bank is reviewing fraudulent transfers. The foundation cannot make payroll. You moved $8 million into it yesterday. That money is restricted. It came from Carter Legacy Partners. We have obligations. So do I. Her voice broke. People will lose their jobs. I looked at her. You used charity employees as shields after stealing from your son. She stared at me as if I had become a stranger. Perhaps I had. Or perhaps she had finally met the man beneath the provider. Clara approached from the rear wall. Victor's emergency board session has been moved to 12:30. I checked the time. 11:14. He found money, Northgate, demanding full payments. Asset sales, he offered a block of Hale Meridian's aviation portfolio. Buyer, none. Bank credit, 2 lenders refused. My father listened. What happens if he cannot pay? Clara looked at me before answering. Northgate sells the pledged shares. Nathan went pale. The shares Victor used for our loan? The loan is held by Hale Meridian, Clara said. But Victor pledged company treasury shares and personal holdings to finance his Vale Crown purchases. My father frowned. Then Hale Meridian loses value. Yes, and our loan becomes more dangerous. My mother gripped Nathan's arm. You said Victor was protected. Nathan pulled away. He lied. My father looked at me. You can stop this. I can. Hope flashed across 3 faces. I continued. I will not. My mother's hope turned to horror. You would let the company collapse? Hale Meridian will not collapse. Then what will happen? It will change owners. Clara handed me the black folder. We should leave. I looked toward the board. Are we finished? Daniel nodded. For now. The cameras followed as I walked out. My family came after me. My father called my name in the corridor. I did not stop. My mother's heels struck the marble faster. Adrian, please. That word followed me into the elevator lobby. Please. The word she had denied me at the dining table. I pressed the call button. She reached me first. You cannot leave us like this. The elevator doors opened. I stepped inside. My father blocked the doors with one hand. You will listen. Security moved, but I raised a finger. The doors pressed against his arm, reopened, and waited. He entered. My mother and Nathan followed. Clara remained beside me. The doors closed. 40 floors of polished steel and silence surrounded us. My father faced me. What do you want? I told Nathan already. No. What do you really want? I watched the numbers descend above the door. I wanted to know who you were. You know who we are. My mother's voice shook. And now? Now I know. She stepped closer. We panicked. You planned. We were afraid. You hired lawyers. Your father made mistakes. My father looked at her sharply. She kept going. Nathan was manipulated. Victor pressured everyone. We thought the company was finished. You thought I was finished. She took my hand. I looked down at her fingers. They were cold. Adrian, I gave birth to you. You forwarded my death sentence in 39 minutes. She released me as if burned. Nathan stared at the floor. My father said, You are measuring a mother's grief with a clock. I am measuring the time between fear and opportunity. The elevator reached the ground floor. The doors opened to a lobby crowded with reporters. My family saw them and froze. Flashbulbs exploded. Questions struck from every direction. Mr. Vale, did your mother leak the medical report? Will Vale Crown pursue criminal charges? Mr. Carter, did you forge your son's signature? Nathan, did Victor Hale promise you control? Security formed a corridor. I walked through it. My family stayed close because the crowd frightened them. Outside, a black sedan waited. Clara opened the rear door. My mother caught my sleeve. Where are you going? To buy a company. Then I got into the car and left them on the steps. Hale Meridian occupied a black glass tower 6 blocks from the river. By noon, its lobby had become a battlefield. Employees clustered near security gates. Traders shouted into phones. Television screens showed the falling share price. Every financial channel carried the same headline. Hale Meridian faces emergency margin crisis. Victor had spent the morning trying to raise $900 million. He sold his private jet. He pledged 2 hotels. He offered a shipping terminal at a discount. He called sovereign funds, pension managers, and 3 rivals he had insulted within the last year. No one moved fast enough. The market smelled blood. At 12:11, Hale Meridian shares fell another 8%. Northgate increased the margin demand to $1,040,000,000. At 12:18, Victor called me. I answered from the car. You engineered this, he said. His voice was controlled, but I heard noise behind it. Phones, footsteps, someone shouting about collateral. You engineered most of it yourself. You fed me false information. You paid to publish it. You concealed the Ashford connection. There was no connection to conceal. You insulted yourself when you lent $120 million against properties without checking ownership. His breathing sharpened. Name your price. For what? The Hale Meridian position. I do not control Ashford. You influence Edwin. I respect him. That is not the same thing. You expect me to believe an old man emerged from retirement by coincidence? No. Silence. Victor understood. Edwin had not acted because I directed him. He acted because Victor had spent years creating enemies who only needed a moment to align. What do you want? Victor asked. Resign? He laughed once. You do not have enough votes, then attend the meeting. I will. Good, I will destroy you in that room. You tried that this morning. This afternoon will be different. Why? Because Hale Meridian is mine. His voice had changed. Not confidence. Possession. The desperate kind. I had heard it before from founders who confused identity with ownership. Victor did not believe he ran Hale Meridian. He believed he was Hale Meridian. That made the next 2 hours dangerous. Men defending wealth negotiated. Men defending themselves burned buildings. I ended the call and looked at Clara. What is he hiding? She glanced up from her tablet. We are still checking. He sounded too certain. He may be bluffing. He does not bluff when cornered. He changes the board. She frowned. 3 directors are loyal to him. Not enough. 4 if Mercer influences Halloran. Still not enough. Unless he invalidates the proxy block. How? Clara's fingers moved across the screen. A litigation order. A regulatory hold. A claim that Ashford's voting agreements violate antitrust restrictions. He cannot get that in an hour. He might if the judge is prepared. Which judge handled the Carter loan petition? Martin Crew. The name settled between us. Judge Martin Crew had presided over 6 Hale Meridian disputes in 9 years. Victor had won all 6. Find every connection, I said. Clara called our legal team. By 12:29, we knew the first piece. Crew's brothers sat on the board of a private hospital chain owned by Hale Meridian. By 12:34, we found the second. Crew's son worked at a law firm representing one of Victor's subsidiaries. By 12:40, Clara received the filing. Hale Meridian had petitioned for an emergency injunction suspending Ashford's proxies on the grounds of undisclosed coordinated control. A hearing was scheduled for 1:15. Victor's board meeting began at 1. He had created 2 battlefields. If the injunction succeeded, Ashford's 27% voting block would be frozen. Victor would survive the board vote. If he survived the board vote, Northgate might extend the margin deadline. If Northgate extended, he could force a broader investigation into Vale Crown and buy time to restructure the Carter loan. One judge stood between him and collapse. Clara looked at me. This is the setback. I almost smiled. You sound like you expected one. I have worked with you long enough to know no plan survives arrogant men with friendly judges. Can we remove Crew? Not before the hearing? Appeal after the order. Too late. The car stopped beneath Hale Meridian's tower. Reporters surrounded the entrance. Clara closed her tablet. What do you want to do? Attend both. The courthouse is 20 minutes away. The hearing is virtual. Crew can exclude non-parties. Then make me a party. On what grounds? I looked at her. Vale Crown is named in Victor's filing. She reopened the petition. He alleges Ashford coordinated with you. Then I have a right to answer. Clara called Helen Cho. By 12:52, Vale Crown filed an intervention request. At 12:58, Crew denied it. At 1, Hale Meridian's board meeting began without me inside. Edwin attended with Margaret Shaw and 2 Ashford attorneys. I remained in a conference room on the 39th floor with Clara, Helen, and a live feed from the courthouse hearing. Judge Crew appeared on screen beneath the seal of the state. He was 63, heavy-faced with glasses, and the impatient tone of a man who considered objections a personal insult. Charles Mercer appeared for Hale Meridian. An attorney named Ruth Ellison represented Ashford. Crew began. This matter concerns whether a collection of investment vehicles may exercise coordinated voting rights without proper disclosure. Ruth responded. The disclosures were complete and timely. Charles shook his head. The entities concealed a common plan to seize control. They agreed to vote on a publicly noticed board matter. They accumulated shares in parallel. Because Hale Meridian was mismanaged, Crew looked over his glasses. Counsel, this is not a forum for editorial commentary. Ruth stayed calm. It is the economic basis for the investment. Charles presented emails between Ashford and allied funds. Most were ordinary. Frockenski forms. Board biographies. Then he displayed one message from Edwin. The line read, "When the Vale matter breaks, Hale will overextend." Crew leaned forward. "What is the Vale matter?" Ruth answered. "We do not know." Charles smiled. "That is difficult to believe. We have no evidence it refers to Vale Crown." "What other Vale matter existed?" Ruth did not answer immediately. The judge noticed. So did I. Victor had found a real problem. Edwin's message predated the fake bankruptcy story. It suggested Ashford anticipated the attack. If Crew connected that anticipation to me, he could justify a temporary freeze. Clara whispered, "Where did Edwin get the information?" "I do not know. You need to. I called him." He answered from the boardroom in a whisper. "This is a poor time. Who told you about the Vale matter?" "No one." "You wrote that Hale would overextend when it broke." A pause. Then Edwin said, "Caraway. The dead founder, his daughter." I looked at Clara. Why? Because Victor approached her. For what? To purchase old correspondence between her father and Hale Meridian. What correspondence? Proof that Victor bribed Caraway's lenders before the liquidation. The shape changed. This was not about me. Victor had known another threat was coming. He assumed the Vale Crown crisis would let him acquire my company before the Caraway evidence surfaced. Ashford had anticipated Victor's overextension because Victor had been trying to bury an old crime. Where's the evidence? I asked. With the daughter. Name? Lena Caraway. Can she testify? She refused. Why? Victor threatened her son. The line went cold in my mind. What threat? A custody action. Her former husband works for Hale Meridian. I looked toward the courthouse feed. Crew was preparing to rule. Give me her number. Edwin sent it. I called. No answer again. No answer. Clara began searching. Lena Caraway. 42. Lives in Connecticut. Son named Mile. 12 years old. Find the former husband. Gavin Pierce, managing director at Hale Meridian. Helen looked up. He is in the building. Where? 26th floor. I stood. Clara blocked the door. You cannot confront him now. Why? Because Victor wants chaos. I do not need chaos. What do you need? The truth. We took the stairs down 13 floors because the elevators had been restricted for the board meeting. Gavin Pierce's office was empty. His assistant looked terrified. He left 10 minutes ago. Where? I do not know. Clara checked security feeds. A black sport utility vehicle had exited the garage at 1:12. Destination unknown. My phone buzzed. A text from an unlisted number appeared. Stop calling Lena, I showed Clara. She stared at the screen. Victor? Novin, maybe. Another message arrived. The boy is safe if the meeting ends. Helen's face hardened. That is coercion. It is also proof. Not enough to identify the sender. I typed one reply. Where is he? No answer. On the courthouse feed, Judge Crew began speaking. The communications presented raised substantial concerns regarding coordinated action and undisclosed influence. Ruth stood. Your Honor, there is no evidence, Mr. Vale directed any purchase. The evidence does not need to be complete for temporary relief. My chest tightened. Not from illness, from time. Crew continued. Maintaining the status quo is appropriate. The status quo meant Victor. He was about to freeze the proxies. I looked at Clara. Trace the number. Already trying. Call Lena from another phone. Helen handed me hers. I called. A woman answered on the fourth ring. Who is this? Adrian Vale. Silence. Then you should not be calling me. Your son may be in danger. Her breath stopped. What? Someone just warned me the boy is safe if the meeting ends. She whispered. Miles is at school. Call the school. I spoke to him this morning. Call now. She did. We waited. On the screen, Crew lifted his pen. Lena returned 30 seconds later. Her voice had changed. He left at lunch. With whom? His father. When? 20 minutes ago. Did Gavin have permission? He has supervised visits only. Call the police. No, Lena, you do not understand. I understand Victor used your child to suppress evidence. He will destroy me. He is trying to. He owns the custody evaluator. He owns Gavin's firm. He owns the lawyers. Not after today. Crew's pen touched the paper. I spoke fast. Lena, Victor is about to survive because you are silent. I cannot risk my son. You already are. She began crying. I hated myself for pressing. But soft words would not reach her through 12 years of fear. Your father died after Victor took everything, I said. Victor is using your son for the same reason, because fear worked once. Stop. He believes it will work again. Stop. Did your father leave evidence? Silence. Lena, yes. Can you prove the bribery? Yes. Can you prove Victor threatened you? Another silence, then a whisper. Yes, send it. I cannot. Why? Because Miles is with Gavin. Clara held up her tablet. The number trace had completed. The messages came from a prepaid phone moving north on the West Side Highway. Security camera recognition found Gavin Pierce driving. Miles sat in the passenger seat. Lena, I said, we found them. She inhaled sharply. Where? West Side Highway heading north. Gavin's mother lives near Albany. Call the police now. This time she did. Helen contacted state police and sent the vehicle information. On the courthouse screen, Crew began reading the order. The Ashford voting proxies shall be temporarily suspended pending full disclosure review. Ruth rose. Your Honor, new evidence has emerged. Crew stopped. What evidence? Ruth looked toward the door of the courtroom. A clerk hurried in, carrying a phone. Edwin had moved faster than I expected. He had sent Lena's documents directly to Ruth. She looked at the screen, then at the judge. Evidence that Hale Meridian's petition was filed to obstruct a shareholder vote concerning criminal conduct. Charles stood. This is absurd, Ruth continued. We have sworn testimony from Lena Caraway, daughter of the late founder of Caraway Steel, along with payment records showing Hale Meridian transferred funds to lenders before forcing Caraway into default. Crew's face changed. Charles turned pale. Ruth lifted the phone. We also have messages threatening Miss Caraway's son if today's meeting proceeds. The judge stared at her. Charles spoke quickly. Hale Meridian denies any connection. Ruth looked toward him. The sender is Gavin Pierce, a Hale Meridian managing director. Crew removed his glasses. The order remained unsigned. For the first time, the friendly judge saw that protecting Victor might pull him into something larger than a corporate dispute. He looked at Charles. "Where is Mr. Pierce?" Charles had no answer. Crew turned toward the clerk. "Contact law enforcement." Then he looked at Ruth. "The injunction is denied." I exhaled. The boardroom feed appeared on Clara's tablet. Edwin stood at the long table. Victor sat at the head. Around them, Hale Meridian's directors held voting devices. Daniel Price had once told me corporate executions were the quietest kind. No gunshot, just hands rising. One director voted to remove Victor, then another. Then two more. The loyalists held. For 20 seconds, the result remained tied. Victor looked around the room. "You owe everything to me," he said. One older director answered. "No. We owe our duty to the company." He cast the deciding vote. Victor Hale was removed as chairman and chief executive at 1:48 in the afternoon. Northgate Securities received notice at 1:50. At 1:53, it refused to extend the margin deadline. At 2, Hale Meridian defaulted on the call. Northgate began liquidating Victor's pledged shares. The price fell like a body from a roof. Victor lost control of his company before the first block finished trading. State police stopped Gavin Pierce near the county line at 2:12. Miles Carraway was unharmed. Gavin was arrested for custodial interference and coercion. At 2:20, Lena released her father's evidence to federal investigators. By 3, every screen in the Hale Meridian lobby showed Victor leaving the boardroom. He looked smaller than he had that morning. No jacket. No attorneys. No Nathan. Security escorted him through the employees who had once stood when he passed. No one stood now. I waited near the bronze elevators. He saw me. His steps slowed. The cameras gathered behind the barrier. "You," he said. I looked at him. "You still have your home," his face twisted. "You think this is over?" "For you as chairman, yes. I built Hale Meridian. You stripped it. I made it powerful. You made it afraid." He stepped closer. "You used my board, my lenders, and a dead man's daughter. You used my family. They came willingly." The line struck because it was true. He saw that and smiled. "Do not pretend you won cleanly. I did not come for clean." His eyes hardened. "What do you want now? Your resignation is complete. Your voting shares are being sold. Your personal guarantees are due. You will not get my private assets. I do not need them." "Then why are you here?" I glanced toward the employees watching us. "To tell you what happens next." He said nothing. Hale Meridian keeps its hospitals, shipping terminals, and manufacturing businesses. The employee pensions remain protected. The aviation portfolio stays intact. His expression changed. "You are not liquidating." "No. Then what was this?" "A correction." He laughed bitterly. "You did all of this to save my company from me." "No." I looked through the glass doors toward the city. "I did it because you believed weakness gave you ownership." He leaned closer. "So did your family." "Yes. And what will you do to them?" I met his eyes. "The same thing I did to you." For the first time, Victor looked past me. My family stood near the lobby entrance. They had arrived together. My mother's face was pale. My father held a folder from Crown Community Bank. Nathan looked as though he had aged 10 years since morning. Victor smiled at them, then at me. "Enjoy your correction." Security guided him toward the doors. As he passed Nathan, he paused. "You wanted to be chairman." Nathan looked at him. Victor's voice was quiet enough that only those nearest heard. "You could not even remain useful for 2 days." Nathan flinched as if struck. Victor walked outside into a wall of cameras. My mother rushed toward me. "Adrian, the bank sent notices." My father opened the folder. "They are accelerating the Carter loan, I know. They want $120 million immediately." "Yes, we do not have it." "I know." Nathan spoke. "Victor took the yacht deposit. Hale Meridian enforced the transfer. That was $5 million. It was borrowed money." My mother stepped closer. "The foundation accounts are frozen because they contain disputed funds. The staff will not be paid. Clara has arranged temporary payroll through a court-supervised account." Hope appeared. "You did?" For the staff. Her hope faded. My father held out the folder. "We need your signature." "For what?" "A guarantee." "No, Adrian, listen to me. If Carter Legacy defaults, the bank will pursue every account, every possession, everything. That is how debt works. We were misled. You signed. We trusted Victor. You trusted him because he told you theft was strategy." My father's face reddened. "This is not the time for moral lectures." "No. It is the time for repayment." My mother began crying. "Where will we go?" I looked at her. 3 months from now, I would stand on the balcony of my villa and watch them beg beneath the rain. But that moment had not arrived yet. First, they had to lose every illusion between the tower and the gate. I took the bank folder from my father. Inside were default notices, fraud reservations, and asset seizure schedules. At the bottom sat one final letter. Crown Community Bank had scheduled the Westchester Mansion for possession review on Friday morning. My father watched my face. "You can stop it." "Yes, then stop it." I closed the folder. "No," my mother gasped. Nathan looked away. My father's voice became low. "You would put your own parents on the street." I handed the folder back. You did not hesitate. The words landed. The old cruel line came back to me. "You were only useful when you had money." I looked at all three of them beneath the tower they had tried to steal. "The house will be emptied Friday," I said. "Take what actually belongs to you." Then I turned to Clara. "Prepare the shareholder gala." She nodded. "When?" My father stared at me. "What gala?" I looked back once. "The one where every remaining account is opened, every forged signature is shown, and every person you lied to sees exactly what you did." My mother went still. Nathan whispered, "Publicly?" "Yes." My father's face drained. "You would destroy the family name." I walked toward the elevator. "No." The doors opened. "You did that yourselves." Saturday night arrived beneath a ceiling of crystal chandeliers and controlled panic. The Vale Crown Shareholder Gala filled the Grand Meridian Ballroom with 600 investors, directors, executives, journalists, and people who had spent the last 48 hours pretending they had never doubted me. Champagne moved through the room on silver trays. A string quartet played near the marble staircase. 3 broadcast networks had positioned cameras behind the press barrier because the official invitation promised a strategic announcement concerning Vale Crown, Hale Meridian, and the future of both companies. No one knew the announcement would begin with my family. I stood in a private room above the ballroom while Clara adjusted the schedule on her tablet. "The mansion was cleared yesterday morning," she said. "I know. Your parents are staying at the Belmore Hotel." "Who paid?" "Your mother used a personal credit card." "How much remains on it?" "Approximately $19,000 of available credit. That will not last." "No." "Nathan?" "He tried to move into the penthouse." I turned toward her. "The penthouse he attempted to sell?" "The building manager denied him access." "Where is he now?" "At the hotel with your parents." Clara swiped to another page. "Carter Legacy Partners is officially in default. Crown Community filed fraud notices. The foundation returned the disputed $8 million. Your mother resigned as chair this afternoon." "Did she resign voluntarily?" "Her board voted first." I looked through the glass wall toward the ballroom below. My mother's foundation had once carried her name in gold letters across a Park Avenue entrance. She had given speeches about responsibility, compassion, and service. When the money disappeared, so did the admiration. What about my father's brokerage account? Frozen. Nathan's remaining accounts? Also frozen. The Ferrari? Repossessed. The watch? Hale Meridian's investigators requested its return. Victor purchased it with corporate funds. I almost laughed. Even Nathan's stolen costume had been rented. Clara looked at me. "They have nothing liquid beyond personal jewelry, clothing, and approximately $37,000 spread across small accounts. They still have more than most people." "They do not see it that way." "They never did." A knock sounded. Daniel Price entered with Helen Cho and Edwin Ashford. Edwin wore a midnight blue tuxedo and carried the same black cane he had brought to the board meeting. He looked toward the ballroom. "This is extravagant. It is an investor gala. It is a public execution with flowers." Daniel adjusted his cuff. "Those are not mutually exclusive." Helen placed 3 folders on the table. The first contains the Carter transfer chain. The second contains the forged documents. The third contains the communications with Victor. "Any surprises?" I opened the third folder. Inside was an email from my father to Victor Hale. The subject line read, "Adrian's final weakness." I read the first paragraph. Richard had described my need for family approval as a predictable flaw. He explained that if Victor isolated me emotionally, I would make concessions to restore peace. He listed examples: the construction debt, Nathan's nightclub, my mother's foundation. Every rescue I had ever performed had become evidence that I could be manipulated. I read the final line. "He will pay anything to avoid being hated by us." The room became silent. Clara watched me. Edwin's expression remained unreadable. Daniel looked away. I closed the folder. "When did he send it?" "6 months ago," Helen said. "Before the fake bankruptcy. Before the test. Before the motel." My father had not panicked. He had prepared. "He was helping Victor long before Nathan," I said. "Yes." "Why?" "Victor promised him control of the Vale family office and a $20 million advisory agreement." I looked at Helen. "Did he receive anything?" $200,000 through a consulting company. Name? Carter Strategic Guidance. Daniel's mouth tightened. An ambitious title for a man who failed to check 4 property deeds. I read the email again. My father had given Victor a map to my loyalty. Victor had simply followed it. The test had not revealed a betrayal born from fear. It had exposed a business arrangement. That changed the order of the evening. Move Richard's evidence to the end, I said. Clara looked up. You plan to finish with Victor's recording? Not anymore. Edwin studied me. You intend to confront your father last? Yes. Why? Because he climbed the highest. A second knock came. Maria Santos entered. She wore a dark green dress and held a small velvet box. I found this in the executive archives, she said. She placed the box before me. Inside was the brass key from my first office. The office above the pharmacy. The one with 3 rooms, leaking pipes, and a window that looked directly into a brick wall. I had kept the key after the building was demolished. Maria looked at it. You said once that you kept this because it opened the first door no one could close on you. I picked it up. The brass was scratched and dull. I had forgotten where it was. I did not. She smiled faintly. People remember different things. Her words followed me as the ballroom doors opened below. An announcement rolled through the speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the founder and executive chairman of Vale Crown Holdings, Adrian Vale. The applause began before I reached the staircase. It rose as I descended. People stood. Investors who had sold shares during the false collapse now clapped hardest. Executives who had ignored my calls during the test smiled with perfect teeth. Reporters lifted cameras. I walked to the stage and waited until the room settled. Behind me, a widescreen displayed the Vale Crown emblem beside Hale Meridian's. My family sat at a table near the front. I had placed them there deliberately. My mother wore the same pearl necklace from the dinner. My father wore a tuxedo that had been tailored before his accounts were frozen. Nathan wore a plain black suit. He looked smaller without the Ferrari, the watch, or Victor beside him. My mother watched me with swollen eyes. My father stared straight ahead. Nathan could not hold my gaze. I placed both hands on the lectern. 3 nights ago, financial markets were told Vale Crown was collapsing. The room became still. 2 nights ago, investors were told I was dying. A murmur passed through the audience. Yesterday, Hale Meridian removed Victor Hale after evidence showed he financed both stories, accumulated Vale Crown shares during the panic, and attempted to seize control through a fraudulent incapacity petition. The screen changed. Documents appeared. Invoices, trade records, the Blackridge payments, the false report, Victor's petition. I let the evidence remain visible. Hale Meridian's new board has referred those matters to federal authorities. Its employees, hospitals, manufacturing businesses, pensions, and operating companies will remain intact. Vale Crown will not strip the business. We will rebuild it. Applause came, not explosive, relieved. Thousands of jobs had been tied to that sentence. I waited. However, Victor Hale did not act alone. My mother gripped her napkin. Nathan lowered his head. My father remained rigid. The screen showed the first forged transfer authorization. This document attempted to transfer family trust assets into Carter Legacy Partners. A second document appeared. This one attempted to sell a penthouse owned by Crown Urban Properties. A third. This one attempted to transfer the Westchester residence owned by Vale Residential Management. I looked toward the audience. The signatures were forged. Cameras turned toward my family. My mother whispered something to my father. He did not answer. The screen displayed transaction records. After creating Carter Legacy Partners, its directors borrowed $120 million from Hale Meridian, using assets they did not own as collateral. The room filled with whispers. I continued. $20 million moved into a private brokerage account. $8 million went into a charitable foundation. $5 million became a yacht deposit. Additional funds were spent, transferred, or concealed. Nathan's face burned. My mother looked as though she might be sick. My father finally raised his eyes to me. This evening is not about revenge, I said. That was partly true. It is about ownership, accountability, and the danger of confusing access with entitlement. The screen changed again. A photograph appeared. Nathan stood in my penthouse beside Victor, holding champagne. Beneath it was his message. Looks like the better man won. A ripple moved through the room. Nathan closed his eyes. I looked at him. Come to the stage. My mother shook her head quickly. Nathan remained seated. I waited. He opened his eyes. There was fear in them, but also something else. Acceptance. He stood. Every camera followed him as he crossed the ballroom. He climbed the stairs and stopped several feet from me. I moved away from the lectern. What did Victor promise you? I asked. Nathan swallowed. A board seat. What else? $10 million. What else? He stared at the floor. The Vale Crown name. The room became silent. I held up the brass key. Do you know what this is? He looked at it. No. The key to my first office. His eyes shifted toward me. 3 rooms above a pharmacy. The ceiling leaked. The heat failed every winter. I slept there more nights than I slept at home. Nathan said nothing. You wanted the name. His jaw tightened. Yes. You did not want the work. No. The honesty surprised the room. It surprised me too. I lowered the key. Why did you record Victor? Because I realized he was going to destroy us. After helping him destroy me. Yes. Did you forge the appointment letter? Yes. Did you transfer internal records? Yes. Did you send him my medical report? Yes. My mother began crying quietly at the table. Nathan looked toward her, then back at me. I thought it was real. What did you do when you believed it was real? His voice weakened. I sent it. Did you call me? No. Did you look for me? No. Why? He stared at me for several seconds. Then he answered. Because I wanted your chair before you died. The sentence struck the ballroom harder than any accusation I could have made. Gasps moved through the crowd. My mother covered her face. My father looked at Nathan with disgust, as if he had not participated. Nathan's eyes filled. I know what that makes me. I did not rescue him from the silence. He continued. I hated you because every room reminded me what I had not done. Every car, every account, every person who respected you. I told myself you made me fail because that was easier than admitting I quit whenever something became difficult. His voice broke. You gave me too much, and I turned that into proof you owed me more. I looked at him. For years, I had wanted him to understand. Now that he did, it brought no satisfaction, only waste. What happens next? He asked. You cooperate with investigators. He nodded. You return everything still in your possession. Yes, you accept whatever charges come. My mother stood abruptly. No. The room turned toward her. She walked to the stage. Her steps were unsteady, but her chin remained lifted. He is your brother. Nathan looked at her. Mom. She ignored him. You cannot hand him to prosecutors. I am not handing him anywhere. You know what prison would do to him. He knew what forgery could do to me. He made a mistake. He made a sequence of decisions. Her eyes hardened. You set a trap. I created an opportunity to choose. You wanted us to prove we loved you. No. I wanted to stop pretending you did. The sentence cut through her. She climbed the final stair and stood beside Nathan. Up close, I saw how much she had aged in 3 days. You humiliated us, she whispered. You demanded a public claim against my company. You could have handled this privately. You did not leak my medical report privately. Her lips trembled. I thought you were dying. You forwarded it in 39 minutes. A camera shutter clicked. She flinched. I lowered my voice. When you read that report, what was the first thing you felt? Her answer came too slowly. Fear. For me, for everything. There it was. Everything. The house. The foundation, the accounts, the invitations. The life. I looked at the pearls around her neck. I gave you that necklace on your 50th birthday. Her hand rose toward it. I remember. You told me it was precious because it came from your son. It is. Then why did you ask for the keys when your son had nowhere to sleep? She had no answer. I reached for the clasp. She stepped back. I stopped. I am not taking it. Her hand remained at her throat. I want you to keep one thing you did not steal. She began to cry. The audience watched in complete silence. You are cruel, she said. No, I looked at her. I am finally finished being useful. She closed her eyes. Nathan guided her away from the center of the stage. My father remained at the table. He had not moved. I looked toward him. Richard Carter. He stiffened. I did not call him Dad. That was the first punishment he understood immediately. Come to the stage. He remained seated. Security did not move. I waited. The room waited with me. Finally, he stood. He walked more slowly than Nathan had, not from fear, from calculation. Even now, he believed there was a position he could take that would preserve dignity. He reached the stage and faced me. This has gone far enough, he said. His voice carried through the microphones. I agree, then end it. I am about to. The screen behind us displayed his email to Victor. Adrian's final weakness. The color drained from his face. I read the final line aloud. He will pay anything to avoid being hated by us. The ballroom became so quiet I could hear the ventilation system. My father stared at the screen. My mother turned toward him. Nathan's expression changed from shame to disbelief. You wrote that? My mother whispered. Richard ignored her. I held up the payment record. Carter Strategic Guidance received $200,000 from a Hale Meridian subsidiary. His jaw tightened. What did you consult on? Family dynamics. A shocked laugh escaped somewhere near the back of the ballroom. My father's eyes flashed. I advised Victor on negotiation strategy. You sold him my trust. I gave him information. You gave him my medical history. No. My mother looked at him. You told me to forward the report. He turned sharply. Do not start. You said Victor could protect us. I said we needed leverage. Nathan stared at him. You knew Victor before he approached me. Richard said nothing. I answered for him. 6 months. Nathan's face twisted. You let me think I brought him in. You were useful. The word left my father's mouth before he could stop it. Nathan froze. The same word, the same judgment, useful. My father saw what he had revealed. Too late, I looked at him. Did you believe I was bankrupt? At first. Did you believe I was dying? The report appeared legitimate. Did you care? His face hardened. I am not performing grief for an audience. You performed authority for one. I raised you. You invoiced me for it. His hands curled. You think money makes you morally superior? No. I stepped closer. I think selling your son's weaknesses for $200,000 makes you morally bankrupt. His face reddened. You would have nothing without me. The old hunger rose in his voice, the need to stand above me one last time. I taught you discipline. I taught you ambition. I taught you not to depend on anyone. You taught me that love could be withdrawn when I stopped paying. He shook his head. You were difficult before the money. What was I after it? Arrogant. His mouth closed. The cruel line from the dining table hung between us. You were only useful when you had money. I looked at my father in front of 600 people. You were wrong. He stared at me. I was useful before the money. I built the money. I protected this family. I paid your debts. I gave Nathan chances. I funded Mom's foundation. I bought the house you threw me out of. My voice remained quiet. You were the ones who became useless when the money disappeared. His face went white. My mother sobbed. Nathan looked away. I turned toward the screen. A final document appeared, a settlement framework. The audience murmured. My father is this. An offer. His eyes moved across the page. Carter Legacy Partners would surrender every remaining asset. My mother's foundation would cooperate with investigators and retain independent management. Nathan would provide testimony regarding Victor Hale and accept personal responsibility for the forged appointment. Richard would return the $200,000 and disclose every communication with Victor. In exchange, Vale Crown would not pursue additional civil damages beyond recovered assets. My father looked at me. You expect us to sign this tonight? Yes. And if we refuse, the evidence goes forward without limitation. Vale Crown pursues every dollar, every property, every personal account, every fraudulent transfer. My mother whispered, we have nothing left. You have choices left. Richard read the final paragraph. His expression changed. This requires a public admission. Yes, you want me the record to stop lying. He looked toward the cameras. You planned this entire gala to force us. You planned my removal 6 months ago. You are my son. I held his gaze. That was your leverage. You used it. The settlement documents were placed on a table beside the stage. 3 pens waited. Nathan moved first. He walked to the table. My mother grabbed his arm. Do not. He looked at her. It is over. We can fight. With what? She glanced toward my father. He did not answer. Nathan took the pen. His hand shook as he signed. Then he placed the pen down and stepped away. My mother stared at the document. She looked toward the audience, the cameras, the investors who had once praised her charity work. Her shoulders folded. She signed. My father remained motionless. I waited. He looked at me. You think this makes you strong? No, it makes you alone. The words reached the place he aimed for, the old fear, the empty room after victory, the silent holidays, the possibility that protecting myself would cost everyone. Then I looked toward Clara, Maria, Daniel, Margaret, people who had stood beside me when there was no trust distribution, no family estate, no promise of inheritance. I held up the brass key. No, I said. It tells me who was already gone. My father looked toward my mother. She would not meet his eyes. Nathan stood apart from both of them. Richard picked up the final pen. He signed slowly. The room exhaled. I returned to the lectern. Effective immediately, Vale Crown and Hale Meridian will begin a joint restructuring focused on long-term operations, employee protection, and transparent governance. Applause rose. This time it was real. The screen behind me changed from evidence to a new corporate plan. Hospitals funded. Factories retained. Pensions secured. Predatory debt practices ended. Victor had built Hale Meridian as a weapon. We would turn it into an institution that could survive without one man's appetite. My family left the stage beneath the cameras. No security dragged them. No one needed to. The loss followed them more heavily than chains. As they reached the ballroom doors, Nathan stopped. He looked back at me. Not begging. Not accusing. He nodded once, then he left. The gala continued for another hour. Investors asked questions. Directors gave statements. Markets prepared for Monday. By midnight, the ballroom had emptied. I stood alone near the stage while staff removed glasses and folded linens. Clara approached. The settlement is filed. Good. Federal investigators want interviews next week. I expected that. Hale Meridian's new board approved the restructuring. Unanimously, all but one. Who opposed? A director Victor appointed last month. Remove him at the next vote. Already scheduled. She looked toward the doors where my family had disappeared. The Belmore Hotel called. Why? Your father's card was declined. I said nothing. They are checking out. Where are they going? Your mother called 3 relatives. None agreed to take them. The silence after that sentence felt different from the motel. Heavier. Not because I wanted them homeless. Because they had spent years building a family system in which money replaced affection. Now the money was gone. The system had nothing inside it. Clara studied my face. You could arrange an apartment. I could, will you? Not tonight, she nodded. On Monday, Vale Crown shares rose 23%. Hale Meridian stabilized. Northgate closed Victor's remaining margin positions. Federal investigators seized records from Blackridge Communications, Carter Strategic Guidance, and 2 Hale Meridian subsidiaries. Victor disappeared from public view. My family disappeared more slowly. My mother sold her pearls, not the necklace I gave her, the others. My father sold 3 watches and a collection of vintage wine. Nathan took a job at a logistics warehouse through an attorney supervising his cooperation agreement. He worked nights. No driver, no office. For the first time in his life, no one knew his last name mattered. Weeks passed, then months. I moved into the villa overlooking the Hudson. It had been purchased through a holding company years earlier and used mostly for executive retreats. The property sat behind stone walls, iron gates, and a long road lined with bare winter trees. I chose it because it was quiet. Perhaps also because the mansion my family lost could be seen from one distant ridge when the weather was clear. 3 months after the gala, rain began before sunset. Cold, relentless rain. I was in the second-floor study when the gate intercom sounded. The security screen showed 3 figures beneath the lamps. My mother, my father, Nathan. They had no car, no umbrellas. My mother wore a dark coat soaked through at the shoulders. My father held a thin folder beneath his jacket. Nathan stood behind them with his hands in his pockets. The intercom sounded again, then again. My mother struck the button until her palm reddened. Adrian. Her voice came through the speakers. Please answer. I carried my coffee onto the balcony. The rain touched my face. Far below, they saw me. My mother stepped closer to the gate. Adrian. My father lifted the folder. We need to speak. Nathan said nothing. I looked at the 3 of them beneath the iron bars. The scene from the beginning had arrived. The family who stole everything they could reach now stood outside a villa they had never known existed. My mother raised both hands toward me. We have nowhere else to go. My father spoke louder. The hotel removed us this morning. Nathan looked up. His face was thinner. We are not asking for money, he said. My mother turned toward him, then back to me. The rain intensified. Water ran down the stone walls. I remembered the snow on my old coat, the marble table, the sound of my keys. My mother's hand on the door, my father's separation agreement, Nathan's champagne photograph. You were only useful when you had money. I placed the coffee on the balcony rail. Then I reached for the intercom. My mother's face lifted with desperate hope. I pressed the button. You have 5 minutes, I said. My father exhaled. My mother began crying. Nathan closed his eyes. I continued, to tell me why I should open the gate. For several seconds, no one spoke. Rain struck the iron gate and ran in silver lines over my mother's face. My father looked down at the folder beneath his jacket, as if the answer might be written inside it. Nathan was the first to move. He stepped closer to the intercom. You should not, he said. My mother turned toward him. What? You should not open the gate. Her expression broke. Nathan, he kept looking up at me. We came because we ran out of options. That is not the same as earning forgiveness. My father's jaw tightened. This is not the time for speeches. Nathan turned toward him. No. This is the first time we do not get to hide behind one. My father stared at him. 3 months in a warehouse had changed my brother more than 3 decades of comfort. The expensive haircut was gone. His hands were rough. A faint bruise darkened one knuckle. His shoulders no longer carried the careless looseness of a man who assumed someone else would catch him. My mother clutched his sleeve. We are freezing. Nathan gently removed her hand. So was Adrian. The rain seemed louder after that. My father looked toward the balcony. You have made your point. I have not made any point, I said. You want us humbled. We are humbled. No. You are uncomfortable. His face hardened. We lost everything. You lost what belonged to other people. We lost our home. You lost permission to live in mine. My mother raised her voice. We are not asking for the mansion back. What are you asking for? She looked toward my father. He lifted the folder. A temporary guarantee. I almost laughed, even at the gate. Even soaked in rain. A guarantee. What does it secure? I asked. My father hesitated. Nathan closed his eyes. My mother whispered Richard. I waited. Finally, my father said, a civil settlement. With whom? Crown Community Bank. The bank already has the Carter legacy settlement. There are additional penalties. For what? He looked at the gate instead of me. Misrepresentation. Fraud. The language is disputed. The evidence is not. His grip tightened around the folder. If the penalties are not paid, the bank will seek criminal referral. I looked at him. The bank already referred the forged transfers. This concerns separate declarations. What declarations? He said nothing. Nathan answered, Dad moved money after the freeze. My mother stared at him. Nathan, he needs to know. My father stepped toward him. Be quiet. Nathan did not move. He transferred $3 million through an account in the Cayman Islands. The bank found it. I looked at my father. Where did the money come from? It was consulting income. From whom? His silence answered. I pressed the intercom button again. Victor? My father's face hardened. It was paid before the board meeting. For what advice? What advice? He glanced toward the dark road behind them. My mother began crying again. Nathan spoke. He gave Victor access codes. The cold inside me returned, not anger. Something cleaner. Which access codes? Archive credentials, Nathan said. For old Vale Crown files. My father snapped. You do not know what you are talking about. I saw the messages. You invaded my privacy. You sold his. My mother turned toward my father. You told me the payment came from property consulting. He looked at her. This is not the place. She laughed once. It was a small, broken sound. There is no place left. My father's face changed. For the first time, I saw fear directed not at me, not at the bank, but at the collapse of his authority over them. My mother stepped away from him. What did you give Victor? He did not answer. She struck his chest with both hands. What did you give him? The folder fell into the mud. Pages spilled across the wet stone. My father grabbed her wrists. Stop. Nathan pulled him away. My mother stumbled against the gate. Security moved from the villa entrance, but I raised my hand. No one crossed the courtyard. I looked at my father. You came here asking me to guarantee a settlement for crimes you still have not disclosed. He wiped rain from his face. I came because this can still be handled. You said that at the board meeting. We are talking about prison. Yes, I am your father. You sold archive access to a man trying to destroy my company. I sold old credentials. What did he access? Nothing important. Nathan looked up at me. The employee pension files. My hand tightened around the intercom. My father turned on him. You do not know that. I saw the directory names. What did Victor want with pension files? I asked. Nathan answered. To find funding gaps. The full shape appeared. Victor had planned more than a takeover. If he found pension exposure, he could leak it, frighten employees, trigger regulatory action, and weaken Vale Crown during the acquisition. My father had not merely sold my vulnerability. He had sold the retirement security of thousands of people. I looked toward the rain beyond the gate. How much did he pay you? My father said nothing. Nathan answered again. $5 million total. $2 million went to Carter Strategic Guidance. $3 million went offshore. My mother stared at her husband. You said the consulting company only received $200,000. That was the first payment. You lied to me. He looked at her with exhausted contempt. I protected you. From what? From knowing details you would mishandle. She recoiled. Nathan laughed bitterly. There it is. My father looked toward me. You understand how these things work. No, you built your company by making hard decisions. I gave him access to Predator. I gave him access to files. Why? To preserve the family. The family you were paid to betray me for. His voice rose. You would have abandoned us eventually. I supported you for 15 years. You resented every dollar. I resented what you became. You made us dependent. You chose dependence because effort was less comfortable. His face twisted. You think hardship makes you noble. No. I leaned toward the intercom. I think hardship shows what was already there. My mother pressed both palms against the gate. Adrian, please let me in. I looked at her. Without him, she froze. My father turned sharply. What? I kept my eyes on my mother. You and Nathan may enter. My father stared up at me. You cannot separate this family. I looked at him. You sold it 6 months ago. My mother looked from him to the villa. Rain ran from her hair onto her coat. For decades, she had stood beside him because he provided certainty. Then I had replaced that certainty with money. When my money appeared to vanish, she chose him again. Now, she had to choose without comfort. Nathan stepped toward the pedestrian gate. Mom, she did not move. My father spoke quietly. Evelyn. The old command was there. Not loud. It did not need to be. She looked at him. His face softened. We leave together. She stared at him for a long time. Then she looked down at the papers in the mud. One page had stuck against the stone. A settlement demand. At the bottom, beneath a column of penalties, sat my father's signature. The same signature he had used to sell access to everything I built. My mother bent and picked up the page. The ink bled beneath the rain. You told me Adrian caused this, she said. My father's mouth tightened. He did. No. She lifted the ruined page. You did. His face became cold. Do not be dramatic. Her shoulders straightened. Something in her expression changed. Not courage, clarity. She removed the pearl necklace from her throat. The necklace I gave her. She held it in one hand. Then she placed it on the wet stone between them. My father looked down. What are you doing? You said everything Adrian gave us was control. She wiped rain from her eyes. But everything you gave us was fear. He stared at her. You have nowhere to go. She looked toward the gate. Neither do you. Then she walked away from him. Nathan opened the small pedestrian gate after security released the lock. My mother stepped through. Nathan followed. The gate closed between my father and the rest of us. He stood alone in the rain. For a moment, disbelief emptied his face. He had expected me to surrender. He had expected my mother to obey. He had expected Nathan to remain weak. He had built his life around certainty that everyone near him would eventually choose fear over consequence. That certainty died beneath the gate lights. He stepped toward the intercom. Adrian, I looked down. You cannot do this. I already did. You will regret it. Perhaps. I know things about you. I know. I have documents. So do the investigators. His eyes moved toward the security cameras. You think prison frightens me? Yes. He smiled without warmth. You do not know me. I finally do. He struck the gate with one hand. You are nothing without this money. The old line returned in another form. Money, usefulness, ownership. I picked up my coffee. It had gone cold. You tested that theory, I said. You failed. His face twisted. You were only useful when you paid. I looked at him. No. The rain fell between us. I was useful when I protected you from yourself. He opened his mouth. I pressed the intercom button one last time. Now I am done. The connection ended. Security escorted my mother and Nathan toward the villa. My father remained at the gate. He shouted my name, then my mother's, then Nathan's. None of us looked back. Inside, the villa was warm. My mother stopped in the entrance hall beneath a chandelier of hand-blown glass. Water dripped from her coat onto the limestone floor. She looked around at the high ceilings, the curved staircase, the painting above the fireplace. You owned this the whole time? For 6 years. Her face folded. All this time, yes. She sat on the edge of a bench. Nathan remained standing. A housekeeper brought towels and hot tea. My mother whispered thanks. The words sounded unfamiliar in her mouth. I led them into the library. No cameras, no board members. Only firelight, rain against the windows, and the brass key from my first office resting on the mantel. My mother held the cup in both hands. What happens now? You stay tonight. Her eyes lifted. Only tonight, slowly. Nathan sat across from me. I have information. About Dad, yes. What kind? Account numbers. Messages. Names. Why did you wait? I was afraid he would blame Mom. He will. I know. He reached into his coat and placed a flash drive on the table. I copied everything from his laptop. My mother stared at it. When? Before we left the hotel. She looked at him. You knew? I suspected. Why did you not tell me? Because every time I told you something about Dad, you explained it away. She closed her eyes. That truth landed quietly. Nathan looked at me. There is more than the bank knows. How much? Victor paid Dad through 4 companies, not one. For access? For access, internal schedules, family information, and introductions. Introductions to whom? 2 Vale Crown directors. A lender. Someone at Blackridge. I leaned back. My father had climbed higher than we thought. Even after Victor's fall, the final thread remained alive. Did either director cooperate? I asked. One refused. One took a meeting. Name, Howard Bell. I knew him. Howard had served on the audit committee for 9 years. Quiet. Trusted. Another open door. I called Clara. She answered immediately. I am at the gatehouse, she said. Come inside. She entered the library 3 minutes later, still wearing her raincoat. Nathan handed her the drive. My father's files. She looked at me. Have you reviewed them? No. Clara opened her laptop. The drive contained hundreds of messages, payment schedules, passwords, draft agreements, notes from meetings. My father had documented everything because he believed records created leverage. In the end, they created a map. Howard Bell had met Victor twice. He had not accepted money, but he had agreed to delay an internal audit in exchange for a future position after the takeover. Clara looked at me. He votes on Monday. Remove him tonight. Emergency committee? Call Margaret. She made the call. Within 40 minutes, Howard Bell received notice of a special ethics hearing. Before midnight, he resigned. The audit committee opened his records. The final hidden channel into Vale Crown closed. Federal agents arrived at the Belmore Hotel at 6 the next morning. My father was gone. He had left through a service entrance before dawn. His passport was flagged. His accounts were frozen. His car was found near a private airfield in New Jersey. For 2 days, no one knew where he was. My mother stayed in a guest room. She rarely left it. She did not ask for jewelry, staff, or money. She asked for paper. On the second evening, she wrote letters to every foundation employee whose job had been endangered. Not excuses. Admissions. She gave Clara permission to release her communications to investigators. Then she removed her name from the foundation permanently. Nathan returned to the warehouse. He refused a driver. He took the train. Before leaving, he stood with me near the front door. I do not expect you to forgive me. Good. He nodded. I want to earn something. What? I do not know yet. That is more honest than the chairman title. He almost smiled. Then he looked toward the old brass key on the table. Can I see the office? It was demolished. His face fell. I picked up the key. But I have photographs. We spent 20 minutes looking at them. 3 rooms, broken blinds, second-hand desks, a microwave balanced on a filing cabinet. In one photograph, I was asleep on the floor beneath my coat. Nathan stared at it. I thought you exaggerated. I know. I thought the company appeared. Nothing appears. He nodded. Then he left. On the third morning, Clara entered my study with a message from federal investigators. They had found my father. He was sitting alone in the lobby of a small airport hotel outside Philadelphia. He had attempted to contact Victor Hale. Victor refused the call. He had attempted to contact Howard Bell. Howard's attorney blocked it. He called 3 relatives. None answered. When agents approached, he did not run. They arrested him on charges related to wire fraud, unauthorized system access, obstruction, and conspiracy. The bank later added its referral. Vale Crown added nothing beyond the evidence already required. I did not visit him. He sent letters. The first accused me. The second blamed Victor. The third blamed my mother. The fourth asked for money for legal defense. The fifth contained one sentence. I did what I thought I had to do. I sent one reply, so did I. His case moved slowly. Victor's moved faster. Lena Caraway testified. Blackridge executives cooperated. Charles Mercer accepted an agreement and provided internal records. Gavin Pierce pleaded guilty to coercion and custodial interference. Victor was charged with securities fraud, market manipulation, conspiracy, and obstruction. The man who had once entered rooms surrounded by attorneys entered court between officers. Hale Meridian survived him. Under Edwin's supervision and Vale Crown's partnership, the company sold no hospitals, closed no factories, and preserved every pension plan Victor had prepared to raid. The Caraway workers received a compensation fund. Lena placed her father's old steelworkers badge in its first office. My mother moved into a modest apartment near the foundation's new independent headquarters. She paid rent from the sale of her jewelry. I offered nothing. She asked for nothing. Once a week, she volunteered in the records room. No speeches, no photographs, no name on the wall. Months later, she invited me to coffee. I went. We sat in a small cafe near the river. She wore no pearls. I thought giving you food and a bed when you were young meant you owed me forever, she said. I stirred my coffee. You never said it that plainly. I did not need to. Your father said it for both of us. Do you blame him? Yes, she looked at me. And myself. That answer mattered more than tears. I love the life you gave me, she said. Then I confused loving the life with loving you. I said nothing. She wiped one eye. I do not know whether there is a way back. There is no way back. Her face fell. I continued. There may be a way forward. She nodded. It was not forgiveness. Not yet. Perhaps not ever in the form she wanted. But it was honest. Nathan completed his cooperation agreement and avoided prison through restitution, testimony, and supervised probation. He stayed at the warehouse. After 1 year, he became a shift coordinator. He called me the night it happened. They promoted me, he said. Did you earn it? Yes. Then congratulations. There was silence. Then he laughed. It was the first clean sound I had heard from him in years. Vale Crown and Hale Meridian completed their merger 18 months after the gala. The new company employed more than 90,000 people. At the first annual meeting, investors expected me to announce expansion targets. Instead, I held up the brass key. I told them where it came from. Not the whole family story. Only the lesson: access is not ownership. Generosity is not surrender. Loyalty without truth is only dependency wearing a familiar face. After the meeting, Clara joined me on the terrace outside headquarters. The city spread beneath us. You kept the villa, she said. Yes. Why? It is quiet. That is not the reason. I looked toward the river. She waited. The gate reminds me that opening a door is a choice, and closing one, also a choice. She smiled. Below us, employees crossed the plaza. No one knew how close their pensions had come to becoming weapons. That was fine. Protection did not need applause. My father was sentenced the following spring. He stood before the judge and described himself as a man abandoned by an ungrateful son. The judge read his emails aloud, especially the final line. He will pay anything to avoid being hated by us. Then the judge looked at him. He paid for years. You simply mistook payment for permission. My father received prison time, not enough to satisfy anger, more than enough to end his illusion. I watched the hearing from the last row. He saw me as officers led him away. He stopped. For one moment, neither of us spoke. Then he asked, was it worth it? I understood what he meant. The company, the exposure, the family, the gate, everything. I looked at the man whose approval had once controlled every room inside me. No, I said. His expression shifted. Then I finished. But it was necessary. He lowered his eyes. The officers took him away. Outside the courthouse, rain had begun. Not heavy, just enough to darken the pavement. My mother stood beneath an umbrella. Nathan waited beside her. They did not approach until I nodded. Then the three of us walked toward the street. Not as the family we had been. That family had depended on money, fear, and silence. This was something smaller. Uncertain, still damaged, but real enough to begin. At the curb, a black sedan waited. The driver opened the door. My mother looked at it, then at the subway entrance across the street. "I can take the train," she said. "So can I," Nathan added. I looked at both of them. Then I closed the car door. We walked toward the station together. The rain followed us down the steps. Years earlier, I had believed wealth meant never having to stand in the cold again. I was wrong. Wealth was knowing which doors to open, which gates to close, and which people would still walk beside you when there was nothing left to steal.